Year-old died yesterday in hospital after he succumbed to injuries he sustained when he was shot by intruders during a break-in at his house in March this year. Sfiso Ramara reports.
Shabalala was born in Orlando East, Soweto in 1949. He was a founder member of Kaizer Chiefs in 1970. He also coached Mamelodi Sundowns in the 1980s, making the club popular with its unique style of play. He was the first coach to lead Bafana Bafana in an official FIFA match after South Africa's readmission into international football back in 1992. He also worked for Chiefs as technical director before joining their arch-rivals Pirates.
Further afield, and finally, Russia's reaction to NATO's pledge of additional military assistance to Ukraine has been an angry one. NATO leaders made the pledge at an ongoing summit in Washington, which has mostly focused on support for Ukraine. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told reporters it was a serious threat to Moscow's national security. The BBC's Steve Rosenberg reports.
Moscow has reacted angrily to NATO's pledge of additional military aid and assistance to Ukraine. Speaking to reporters, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Russia's opponents in Europe and America did not support dialogue or peace. He added that with the alliance insisting that Ukraine is on an irreversible path to NATO membership, it was clear that Western leaders were seeking Russia's strategic defeat. Moscow, he said, would respond with coordinated measures to keep NATO in check. He provided no details of what those might be.
Recapping the top story, the Department of Health has recorded 2 more confirmed cases of Mpox this week, bringing the total number of cases to 22 since the outbreak in May. However, the number of deaths remain at 3. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby. The Springboks are aiming for a forward dominance in Durban when they take on Ireland. And in soccer news, Rulani Mokwena, he has joined the Moroccan Giants Wydad Athletic. We'll bring you all the details just before 6:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Southern parts of KZN protesting again on the N2 at Islingulweni. Just expect a morning of disruption there if you need to go between Harding and Port Shepstone. There may well be some queuing pressure. There may well be a closure to deal with as well. A little bit of traffic coming out of Pietermaritzburg this morning. Sluggish just around Linfield Park, sluggish at Key Ridge. Both of those through the work zones. Gauteng off to a pretty good start. If you're driving out towards Emmerley, there is a truck fire incident around Delmas. So only one lane open on that section of the N12. Cape Town, a crash in the rain on the N2 inbound off-ramp to the airport. If you're turning into the airport, watch for slowing traffic there. And of concern is the closure of the N1 highway between effectively the Durrance and Toes Raffier. That section of the N1 closed because of fairly extreme flooding. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
It's wet in many places. It's been a cold week. On the other hand, it is Friday. Good morning. Welcome to SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. And of course, still the story as it's been for so much of the week is about the weather in Cape Town. And please let me know how heavy the rain has been overnight already. You know, when Rob Byrne's talking about it, you know that it's been quite serious. There was that level 8, you get them muddled up nowadays, that level 8 warning for rain yesterday. And I'm afraid more warnings for rain in the Western Cape, the whole of the Western Cape really, or most of it, over the weekend. It's a very, very difficult situation playing out for so many people there. Thousands of people displaced. The latest number I have actually is around 15,000 people who've been displaced. And this is 15,000 people who need shelter. I mean, there just won't be enough shelter for all of them. So you can imagine the sort of scale of the problem in Cape Town and in the Western Cape at the moment. And I think one of the other things is, the sun's still probably only going to rise in about an hour, as much as it will, in Cape Town. So to try at this moment assess how bad it is, is probably quite difficult. And of course, there are various conversations that come out of it. I'd be very interested to hear from someone in the Newton Village area. I think that's in the Drakensberg municipality, if I've got my geography right. So not in Cape Town, but in the Western Cape. People there evacuated, not because of the heavy rain, because of dams and flooding in the area. Very worried about that. And then some rivers, of course, also, as we've heard through the week, overflowing. Mamaloko Kubai, the Minister of Human Settlements, she was there yesterday. A lot of the ministers and MPs are in Cape Town at the moment. The Parliament seems to be working in the precinct, or just outside it, I suppose. And she was, asked about the city of Cape Town. They want to devolve the emergency housing grant to Cape Town. She said no. Of course, don't forget, all of these people are in the same government together. Mustn't forget that. Can sometimes forget that. She was talking about how shelter will be provided for people who've been displaced, but it's a big job. It really is a huge job. So you tell me what it's like in Cape Town, in the Western Cape at the moment. I know it's been very, very difficult. And unfortunately, as I say, more rain to come. We'll hear from the Mayor, Jordan Hill-Lewis, about an hour from now. Just find out more about the picture. Also, the head of disaster management in the Western Cape for the bigger picture as well. In Parliament yesterday, a lot going on. So the departments, despite the fact we've just had an election, there's another sort of timetable they need to manage, which is around budgets. And Aaron Motsoaledi, the health minister, in his sort of budget speech, talking about the NHI. So yes, he was, appointed health minister 5 minutes ago, but has to make the speech. And he continuing to support the NHI. If you know him, if you know his history in this area, you'd be surprised if he didn't. And this is, of course, despite the strong opposition from the DA, the Freedom Front Plus, one or two others in the new government, the coalition government. So very interesting to see how that plays out. But the NHI is still a big story. The story I didn't know when I woke up this morning is around VBS and what appears very strong evidence now to be links to the EFF. So VBS, the bank which collapsed, its chair, Chifuya Matodzi, you remember earlier this week we explained and heard how he had pleaded guilty to a number of charges. And I think as sort of part of the deal, he's serving 15 years in prison. If you put all of the sentences together, it comes to over 400 years, but they're running concurrently. In other words, they're running at the same time. This is usually what happens. If you assault someone and steal their cell phone and you get a sort of year for the assault and 2 years for stealing the cell phone or something, you would only serve 2 years in prison because they'll run concurrently. In other words, for the first year of the longer sentence, you're also serving the second sentence. So in total, if you got 1 year for one and 2 years for the other, you would be serving just 2 years in prison, not 3. That's the idea. Obviously, this can all be negotiated. It does have to be signed off by a judge. And now, Matodzi has submitted an affidavit, and I saw this in Daily Maverick this morning, and of course they did a lot of reporting on it. And in the affidavit, Matodzi talks about how the EFF were attacking VBS in public. This was in 2016-2017 after VBS lent money to former President Jacob Zuma. Remember, he had to pay back the money over in Kandla. Remember the EFF at the time, pay back the money. Anyway, he had a meeting with Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu, the leader and deputy leader of the EFF. Marshal Dlamini was there too, but didn't seem to take part in the meeting. He describes it as a kind of penthouse in Sandton. And he said to them, basically, it seems as an attempt to stop their attacking VBS. This is on his version now. He said, if you open a VBS bank account, I'll give you 5 million rand. All you need to do is basically open the bank account, and I'll give you 1 million rand every month. And he talks about the sort of criminality that he was involved in. And over time, it seems to have come, and remember there was a sort of consistent figure of 16 million rand that was the claim that went from VBS to the EFF. Now, we haven't yet heard the version of the EFF. I must just tell you, very lively, as you can imagine, conversation about this on X this morning and social media, and strong views in many directions, because this has sort of been a story that's been kind of hanging around for a while. Daily Maverick say they did try and speak to the EFF. No response from them yet. I don't know if we'll get a response this morning. Often quite difficult, and of course, as people wake up early in the morning and face all these things, they're not immediately available. Also in the affidavit, they say that Matodzi says, rather, that the Director General of the Treasury at the time, Dondo Mokgotjane, was sort of involved and tried to go easy on VBS. But Mokhajani's told Daily Maverick he did respond, and he strongly denies that. And they have another source they quote in the National Treasury who says when it came to VBS, Mokhajani did everything he was supposed to do. There's no evidence that he sort of went easy on them. So that's one of the big stories this morning. Now we'll see if we're able to get some reaction on that. The NPA saying it's studying the Esidimeni inquest finding against Qadari Mahlangu and Dr. Makhobo Manamela. Basically looking, of course, the question is, will they institute charges? I'm hoping they do that quickly. I think everybody is. We need some justice here. And then I was sad to see this morning, because if you were around and alive and kind of awake in the 1990s and before then and later, you would know this name, Screamer Shabalala. I mean, just someone who had been involved in football for years and years and years, famously helping to form Kaizer Chiefs back in 1970. I'm sure there's a story about a wedding there somewhere. But he passed away yesterday. And he had suffered a shooting at his home back in March. And I think if I remember, he was our first Bafana coach in 1992. I think that's right. So before the African Cup of Nations, everyone talks about in 96. But I remember, listening on the radio, the first sort of Bafana game, really in a way, internationally, even before 1994. But in 1992, Screamer Shabalala was the coach. And sad to hear that he's passed away. I'm sure you have a memory of Screamer Shabalala you might like to share with us on 086 000 2032. Your SMS 41391. Tweet SFM Radio and at Stephen Grootes. Send your WhatsApp voice notes to 0614 104 107. Good morning. It's 14 after 6.
In South Africa, 1 in 5 children under the age of 13 is overweight or obese. Sign a petition to demand strong warning labels on unhealthy packaged food. And don't forget to catch the next episode of Chew on This at healer.org on Thursday, 27 June from 3 p.m. Young people tell us how big food companies are feeding them lies.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we would buy 500 more. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Every girl dreams of her perfect wedding. The venue, decor, rings, guest list, the speeches, the vows. Seeing a tear roll down her groom's cheek. The $1 million budget.
I think there's a typo in the script, no? No, carry on. It's $1 million US, Chief.
Bespoke Cartier jewelry inspired by Meghan Markle. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of flowers and multiple designer wedding dresses are nothing out of the ordinary for Lillian Chu, a wedding planner to the super rich in East Asia. She only takes 10 weddings a year at an average cost of $1 million. Channel your best joy with the $1 Million Wedding Planner this Thursday, the 18th of July at 10 p.m. Only on S3. Open up.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
And Musa, good morning. How are you doing this Friday?
Good morning, Stephen. Happy Friday. I'm all good. And yourself?
Yeah, all right, thanks. Just waiting to hear about the picture in Cape Town. The sun's still to rise there, obviously.
Yeah, also our focus, the impact of the storm in parts of the Western Cape. We know that thousands of informal structures have been impacted by the flooding and the wind damage in the Cape Metro. Schools are still closed in the Cape Winelands and Overberg today. However, all schools in the other education districts are to reopen, and this means that schools in the Cape Town Metro districts, the West Coast Education District and the Eden and Central Karoo Education districts will be open. The Nelson Mandela Metropolitan Municipality in the Eastern Cape saying that it will take about a year to fix the damaged infrastructure by floods in Kariga, and close to 200 people were displaced by devastating floods last month in the area. Today, the Minister of Social Development is expected to hand over humanitarian relief assistance for the affected, and it comes as the municipality has announced that it's in the process of arranging temporary structures for the affected families. The Minister will also assess the ongoing recovery and reconstruction plans. There's a call on national government to allocate more resources to local municipalities, and this to deal with the aftermath of natural disasters. It was made by the KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Cooperative Governance, Tulasizwe Buthelezi. He was on a visit yesterday where about 80 homes have been destroyed by wildfires in Eshowe. We also have more reaction on the Life Esidimeni inquest judgment. The NPA saying that it has taken note of the judgment delivered by the Pretoria High Court on Wednesday and will be working with the police to prioritize all outstanding investigations into the matter, and they are committed to ensuring accountability for any criminal conduct that's related to the tragedy. And lastly, I'm about to lose my voice, so
we can hear. You might want to clear your throat for a sec.
You know, the NPA expected to oppose bail in the case of a 19-year-old suspect arrested in Wallisdean, that's near Kraaifontein in Cape Town, and it is in connection with the alleged assault of his grandmother. He's expected to appear in the Kuils River Magistrates Court today, and he was arrested after a video of the alleged incident went viral on social media.
And Musa, good luck with the frog this Friday. Thanks very much indeed. You were there, SFM. We'll be listening on the radio 19 after 6.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
Let's look at your weather around the country this morning. Tshwane, fine, 4 and 26. Johannesburg, fine, 2 and 24. Vereeniging, fine, 1 and 25. Bombela, fine, 9 and 30. Polokwane, fine, 4 and 26. Mahakeng, fine, 5 and 26. Vryburg, fine and windy, 2 and 26. Mangaung, fine and windy, 0 and 24. Kimberley, fine, 4 and 23. Uppington, fine, 3 and 21. Well, Cape Town and the Western Cape, still lots of rain, I'm afraid. Cloudy and windy with intermittent rain. There's the forecast. A fresh to strong northwesterly wind, so still strong winds there, 12 and 15. George, partly cloudy. A moderate to fresh westerly wind, 12 and 18. Gqeberha, partly cloudy. A light and variable wind, 13 and 20. East London, fine. A light and variable wind, 13 and 23. eThekwini, fine. A moderate southwesterly wind, 18 and 27. Shows you how diverse this country is when it comes to weather. And Richards Bay, fine. A moderate to fresh northerly wind, 18 and 32. Good day for a swim there, 20 minutes after 6.
It's Truck Month at Ford, and that means one thing. You save big when you upgrade to a 4x4. For a limited time only, get a Ford Ranger 4x4 from only $8,599 per month. Visit your nearest Ford dealer to get the best deal on a Ranger 4x4 from only $8,599 per month with free 4x4 driver training. TNCs apply.
What's up, good people? It's Bulela Podisa, the girl from next door that you can call friend. This is Deal or No Deal Celebrity. Catch us every Saturday at 6 p.m.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
21 minutes now after 6 in the US, President Joe Biden has given a press conference in which he took questions from journalists as people in his own party are calling for him to drop out of the presidential race against the Republican former President Donald Trump. Biden says he's still the person best qualified to beat Trump in November, but he also mixed up his Vice President Kamala Harris with Trump, and earlier in the day at a NATO event introduced the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as Vladimir Putin. Brooks Spector is an expert in international affairs and US politics. He's an associate editor at Daily Maverick. Brooks, good morning to you. Such a huge storm swirling around Biden right now. Did he do enough to calm Democrats and stay in the race?
Well, good morning, Stephen. It's a question whether he did or didn't. If you ask Keir Starmer or Oscar Scholz or Emmanuel Macron, they were asked basically, is Joe Biden senile? And they all said no. That was, kind of a ringing endorsement, sort of, maybe a little bit. In the meantime, 16, by my count, 16 House of Representatives, Democrats, and one senator have urged him to drop out of the race and yield to somebody younger. That's what? That's roughly speaking 1/20th of the Democratic contingent in the U.S. Congress, so it's not overwhelming. Nancy Pelosi, who was Speaker of the House for forever, said that Joe Biden needs to make up his mind finally, quickly, which is not, again, a ringing endorsement. But at the press conference that he gave on Thursday evening Washington time, early in the morning our time, he made some verbal gaffes, but on the other hand, in over an hour's worth of this, he gave thoughtful, detailed analysis of the issues that were raised in the questions other than can he walk and chew gum at the same time. He gave thoughtful answers, and except for the fact that occasionally he would confuse who was president of Ukraine or who his vice president was. So, you're left with the conundrum. Is he too old to do this? A significant number of Americans say he is. Significant number of Americans also say his opponent, what's his name, Donald Trump, is too old as well. See, I did it as well. I couldn't remember his name for a second. I'm not even quite Joe Biden's age. Look, this thing has swallowed up foreign policy and domestic policy and the presidential race in the United States to an astonishing degree, whether or not Joe Biden makes verbal gaffes in the way he's been doing it all his life. It's a problem.
I would presume that in a way Pelosi must be right. Time is running out to make a change. It's mid-July now. People vote in November. If someone's going to take over as the Democratic candidate, this needs to happen now. And I suppose if you've got a Republican convention, is it next week? If it is, one way to sort of blow that out of the water from a media point of view is for the Democrats to make a change right in the middle of it.
Well, that's been one argument people have been making, that since the Trump forces have spent so much time and energy figuring out their strategy to attack Joe Biden, if there was somebody else who was 20, 30 years younger and a very different person, they would have to re-gear their entire approach, which is why you notice that in some of the recent statements, they've begun to attack Kamala Harris as well, on the theory that, well, she might be the nominee after all. But there is a deep bench among the Democrats, a handful of governors, some senators, and others. And some people have suggested, in accord with what you were just saying, that there needs to be a beauty competition really soon between all these people, because it would, if nothing else, be compelling television, which would attract audience attention away from the Republican convention and away from this constant drumbeat: is Joe Biden too old and too senile to be a candidate and then president for the next 4 years? In a word, it's complicated.
So, there are risks to that too, because the Democratic Party could tear itself apart. Every single person in that contest would have their own personal ambition. Unless, of course, there's really a unified front around one person. And until that happens, that's probably what keeps Biden there.
Yeah, well, traditionally, Democrats have never been what you would call a unified, coherent, consistent party. The old comedian years and years ago, Will Rogers, used to say he doesn't belong to an organized political party. He was a Democrat. And true to form, since the 1930s, that's pretty much how they've run their operation. But I would really love to see a television program in which 4 different governors, 2 senators, a couple of cabinet members all try to explain why they would be the best man or woman to succeed Joe Biden as president. That could be compelling stuff.
Brooke Spector, as always, thanks very much indeed. Do appreciate it. Associate Editor at Daily Maverick. Fascinating to hear what exactly is happening in the United States, and of course, big election coming up in November. Developments, I imagine, on that over the next couple of days as well. You're with SFM. It's coming up now to 27 minutes after 6 o'clock.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, a big rugby test tomorrow. Andy Farrell's making some changes.
Oh, it's going to be a cracker. Yes, the Ireland coach announcing changes with Caelan Doris will be the captain for the first time when the Springboks take on the Irish in Durban tomorrow after a tightly contested 27-20 loss in Pretoria. Ireland face an extensive injury list with key players. Craig Casey and Dan Sheehan ruled out for the rest of the tour. Andy Farrell says they know they have to improve.
we're disappointed enough, especially like I said about our first half performance. It wasn't us doing things properly, and it might not seem like that to everyone, but to us it was. So therefore, we need to improve. We need to commit and be better than we was. I've no doubt South Africa are going to be twice as good.
Soccer news. Rulani Mokoena has officially joined the Moroccan club Wydad Athletic on a 2-year deal following his unexpected departure from Mamelodi Sundowns. Speculation about Mokwena's move had been circulating, but Wydad Athletic confirmed the news on their social media platforms, welcoming him as their new head coach. Meanwhile, Orlando Pirates has announced the passing of former Bafana Bafana and Mamelodi Sundowns coach Stanley "Screamer" Shabalala at the age of 75. Shabalala, who was shot during a burglary at his home in March this year, passed away in hospital as a result of injuries sustained during the incident. Following his distinguished playing career, Shabalala was the first head coach of Bafana Bafana, and that was in 1992. Elsewhere, Manchester United have appointed their former striker Ruud van Nistelrooy as assistant to manager Erik ten Hag in another move they hope will restore the record 20 times English champions to former glories. Ten Hag has signed a contract extension that will keep him at the Premier League club until 2026, despite a poor season in which United finished 8th in the standings. The 48-year-old Van Nistelrooy scored 95 goals in 150 Premier League appearances for United between 2001 and 2006. Cycling, the history maker Binyam Girmay sprinted to his third victory at this year's Tour de France, but the overall contender, Primož Roglic, lost significant time after a late crash on stage 12. The Eritrean Girmay became the first black African to win a Tour de France stage with his opening win on stage 3 and also triumphed on stage 8. Tadej Pogačar retained the leader's yellow jersey and remains 1 minute 6 seconds ahead of Remco Evenepoel, with defending champion Jonas Vingegaard a further 8 seconds behind. And tennis action, Jasmine Paolini edged out a tearful Donna Vekic in a thrilling semi-final to become the first Italian to reach a Wimbledon women's singles final. In one of the best matches of the tournament, Paolini missed 2 match points and was 8-7 behind in the 10-point tie-break before recovering to clinch an incredible victory. The match lasted 2 hours 51 minutes, making it the longest women's singles semi-final at Wimbledon, with the Italian winning 2-6, 6-4, 7-6. The 7-seeded Paolini will now face Czech's 31st seed Barbara Krejcikova. She claimed a remarkable 3-6, 6-3, 6-4 comeback victory against Elena Rybakina, the 2022 champion. Let's hear now from Jasmine Paolini.
I think it's a really privileged position, and I have to keep that in focus, But also, sometimes I'm trying to say to myself, okay, jokes apart, enjoy it, but stay also focused and think about what you have to do to step on court and to give the 100% that you have. So it's a balance, I think,
We'll have more sport with Sunrise Top of the Hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. More on the life of Esidimeni, the latest on that, and that tragedy in the next half hour. You're with SFM leading the conversation, Friday morning, 6:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, the National Prosecuting Authority is expected to oppose bail today in the case against 19-year-old Luvo Ngaza, who allegedly assaulted his grandmother. He's appearing in the Kells River Magistrates Court facing charges of assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm and contravention of the Older Persons Act. The Department of Health has recorded 2 more confirmed cases of Mpox this week. It brings the total number of cases to 22 since the outbreak in May. And the South African Maritime Safety Authority says salvage work continues on the MV Ultra Galaxy. The Panama-registered cargo ship ran aground on the Cape West Coast. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
One of the top stories is protesting again down at Islington on the southern parts of KZN. This is affecting traffic moving between Port Shepstone, Harding, Port Shepstone and the Coxstad area. Protesters with burning tyres and rocks across that section of the N2. Any plans to travel through that area should really be held over until much later this morning or this afternoon. And just a note to the haulage industry to stay away from that area during protests because the trucks are being targeted for looting as well. The other major issue that we're watching is the flooding inland from Cape Town around the Worcester Toes Raffier area, Worcester through to Robertson. Now, there's a lot of road closures. I've just spoken to a trucker who said trucks are basically just finding truck stops to stop at and park up until this water level subsides. And it'd be a good idea for the motoring public as well, just to sort of change any plans to travel through that inland part of the Western Cape area. It's still raining. The rivers are swollen. And, of course, there's a lot more water still to come down these rivers and a lot more water being added with the rain today. So a good idea just to postpone any travel on the grounds of safety and on the grounds of the alternative routes are quite lengthy. So Dedurance through to Toes Raffier on the N1 is closed. The alternative R46 that takes you out through Cirrus to Toes Raffier is also closed. And we're just hearing about closures going on the R60, the road that links Robertson up to Worcester as well. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Call us on 086 000 2032. The Business Update on SAFM.
And Lenglet, good morning.
Morning, Stephen. I hope you're well.
All good. How are the markets this morning?
Well, that all-important U.S. inflation print traders were eagerly awaiting was released yesterday. We saw consumer prices ease 0.1% in June on a monthly basis, and the annual increase of 3% was the smallest rise in a year. This print now further supports the case for Fed rate cuts. Now, Stephen, you'd expect the news to have a good impact on the U.S. markets. However, this was not the case, with Wall Street trading mostly in the red. We saw the S&P 500 recording its worst session since April. Those markets mainly dragged lower by investors' rotation out of mega cap tech stocks. Now, moving over to Asia, those stocks also digesting a softer inflation print, moving mostly lower, taking cues from Wall Street. Sentiment was quite different here back at home, with the JSE staging a recovery after 2 straight days of losses. The all-share gaining 0.8% in yesterday's trade. The local unit also hopping onto the positive momentum. At one point yesterday, it traded under 18 to the dollar as the rate cut euphoria returned to markets. The rand is currently sitting at 18 rand to the greenback.
And BHP shutting down its nickel operations in Australia.
Stephen, this is on a temporary basis, and the miner says it'll review the decision by February 2027. Now, the operations that'll be affected are its Nickel West operations and West Musgrave project in Western Australia. The decision to suspend production comes as BHP noted that there's an oversupply of nickel in the market. Now, nickel is a key component in electric vehicle batteries, and it has seen its prices drop due to an influx of cheaper nickel from Indonesia. This has put pressure on Australian nickel producers who have higher costs. Prices have fallen from an average of $25,000 per ton to $16,725 per ton over the past 18 months. Now, the move to halt production puts about 2,500 jobs at risk. BHP, however, has vowed to protect livelihoods and continue to invest in those communities. The group says it will invest about $300 million a year following completion of a transition period to support a potential restart of Western Australia nickel operations.
And then Bytes is warning of slower profit growth.
Now, in an update, the locally listed UK-based software security, cloud and AI services company forecasted slower profit growth for the first 4 months of its current financial year. The group has been benefiting from the AI boom and need for its IT services. However, the industry has proven to be very competitive. Now, Bytes investors have become used to the group delivering double-digit earnings growth in 2022. The 2022 financial year, gross profit was up 20%. In 2023, gross profit rose 20.7%. And in the year to end February 2024, gross profit rose 12.5%. And so the recent update has left a sour taste in investors' mouths as they expect the group to now deliver single-digit earnings growth. The downbeat sentiment was reinforced by a global investment bank, Jefferies, that has lowered its price target for Bytes due to the company's slow progress in AI, lower growth expectations, and the loss of staff members, particularly the scandal that led to its previous CEO's exit. As mentioned, markets not happy with this update, and so we saw the share price tank over 6% in yesterday's close.
Ntaleng Lechela, thanks very much indeed. Back, of course, in an hour. More business news through the day here on SAFM.
There's sponsoring a news feature. Then there's helping your clients make the news. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking to see how far they can take your business.
Africa Update on SAFM Sunrise, a continental overview of current African affairs.
Rest Advocate Sipho Mantula, good morning.
Steve, over fresh morning and Jumbo Africa to the listeners.
This drama in Kenya, the President William Ruto firing his entire cabinet, and the risk here when we see people do this is that they might try and govern on their own, and that's always bad news.
Stephen, he has fired his entire cabinet yesterday when he said it was upon reflection and a holistic appraisal of his cabinet. But he left the deputy president, the prime cabinet secretary. He also fired the attorney general. But what is interesting in the history of Kenya, Stephen, before the new constitution, this has happened in the new constitution. In 2005, Mwai Kibaki did the same, Stephen, by firing the whole cabinet, and he asserted political authority. Ruto went further, Stephen, to deal with the SOEs there. 47 of them now have been merged, and he has dealt with the issues to look at how to save the money. It seems this tax bill and the finance bill, Stephen, has been one of the issues that have pushed him. But others are saying it's a mixed hope and skepticism about this cabinet, sacking of the cabinet members, and who will now become new members of cabinet, because he has to appoint the new members of the cabinet. Maybe it will be a lean cabinet, not a bloated cabinet, and of alleged corrupt cabinet members.
And then in Algeria, their president says he'll run for a second term of 5 years.
President Tebboune, at the age of 78, is contesting power also, Stephen, but their elections is on the 7th of September. What is interesting is that by the end of July, they have to collect signatures, those who want to contest. It appears there will be 34 candidates who have announced their plans to run elections with the president of Algeria, Albert Maji Tebboune, who's now contesting, Stephen. Now we'll see at the age of 78, will he still manage the politics of Algiers?
And then in Rwanda, presidential elections there, Sipho. Look, I'm not a betting person, but I kind of know who's going to win.
That's quite true, but Paul Kagame, they're going for the elections on Monday. Actually, Rwanda decides on Mondays, both presidential and parliamentary. Only two candidates, even. So you have three presidential candidates for this election. 9 million voters who are registered. They will have to elect also 80 members of parliament. Provisional results, likelihood to get them on the 20th of July, Stephen. But like you said, the writing might be on the wall that Paul Kagame will be back in office.
And then in Zambia, the former president, Edgar Lungu, will have to go for a trial before he can run as a presidential candidate again.
Stephen, there's a young activist there in Zambia called Michelle Chizombe who have taken this matter up that Lungu cannot contest the 2026 presidential election because he has served his 2 terms from 2015 to 2021, but Lungu reneged, saying that he actually took from Michael Sata, and that's how he feels that his term limit was only 1 term limit, not 2 of them. So this matter, it has to go to the full trial, Stephen, so that the eligibility for him to stand for the presidential elections in 2026 can be seen there. So it's more about Lungu trying to come back into power, Stephen. Hakainde Hichilema is the current president of Zambia.
And then in our archives, this day, 12th of July, 1972.
It's 52 years ago, Stephen, when the Black People's Convention was formed in the conference in Pietermaritzburg. Elected the first woman to lead the Black People's Convention, Winnie Khware, and Steve Biko was named the honorary president. This party was inaugurated in 1972, but it was banned in 1977. Interesting politics of the Black consciousness movement, with this first woman, Stephen, as I said, Winnie Khware being the first president of the BPC. Asante Sana SG, as was still leading the conversation, SAFM, observing the International Mandela March.
Ras Advocate Sipho Mantula, thank you so much. Back on Monday, more news, of course, from our continent through the day here.
there's listening to the news. Then there's making the news. Grow your business into the next big thing with Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. When you choose Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, you get access to our business solar loans. Accessing our business solar loans means you get connected to the right supplier for your business and the most feasible tailor-made financing solution. And that financing solution means 8,760 hours of uninterrupted power for your business, sourced directly from the African sun. You see, there's going green. Then there's going green with us. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
All right, lots to talk about this morning. The flooding, of course, in Cape Town. Issues as well around what's been happening in Parliament, the situation around the NHI, these revelations in this affidavit by the former chair of VBS, Chifua Matodzi, about the involvement, he says, of leaders from the EFF. They haven't responded to them yet. Other issues, of course, this morning. Let's start in Heidelberg in Gauteng. Temba, hi, good morning. You want to talk about the Patriotic Alliance?
Yes, FG, how are you doing? Graraman?
I'm well, man. Go for it.
Yes, Graraman. Graraman, okay, let me begin by saying I'm of the strong opinion that as South Africans, we have failed ourselves dismally in the past, by way of not aligning ourselves with parties such as Patriotic Alliance and Action SA, political parties who happens to speak our language, of advocating for the needs of South Africans first, So, yeah, we have failed ourselves dismally. Just consider what the Minister of DA, the Minister from DA.
Are you talking about the Home Affairs Minister, Leon Schreiber?
Yes, for what he has just done now, So, yeah, we have failed ourselves dismally.
Right. Temba, I think you're referring to his decision to basically allow people who are still awaiting the outcome of visa applications to stay. These are people who've often been here a long time.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
All right. Temba on the line from Heidelberg, thank you. Look, always strong views on that particular issue, I must just say. Ninja in KwaZulu-Natal. Ninja, good morning. Kenya, the firing of the cabinet.
Good morning. This president is fighting a losing battle. The phrase is lie and fly. He's been into this lavish lifestyle, which is common in Africa. The people are struggling. You can see the movement of the people. They're struggling. Same in this country. People are struggling. The kids, the youth want to change throughout Africa. This new generation will change the face of Africa because this old guard has aligned themselves with the imperialistic system. And they get caught up in this. A good example is Mobutu. He got caught in Zaire, where he forgot the people, and France gave him sanctuary. And all these leaders forget where they came from. They forget the hardship they went through, you see. And I think he'll have to leave office soon because he's just on a thread, And the penny has to drop at some stage. The people don't want him in power, And it's the same in other parts of Africa. Now, those three countries, Niger, Mali, and the other country, I forget, they are going to change things in Africa because the West has been ripping this African continent apart, and things have to change in Africa.
Yeah, no, Ninja, I hear you. And I think there is a change, and I think there are lots of discussions about that change. It's also just interesting to see how different generations see things differently. And, there's a sort of phrase, it's, another generation's turn in a way. Maybe that's one of the issues, 14 minutes to 7.
Could you be paying less for your car insurance? Outsurance has comprehensive cover with all the bells and whistles. An essential cover for cars older than 5 years under 125,000 Rand that aren't financed.
I am Flip. I'm from Vredendal. I'm 54 years old. I'm only paid 267 Rand for my 2005 Ford Ranger from Outsurance Essential.
Whether you choose comprehensive or essential cover, Outsurance will make sure you don't pay more than you have to for car insurance. SMS out to 30754 now. Even if you just save a few $100s a month, it could add up to thousands a year.
Hi, I'm Lorraine. I'm 31 from Durbanville. I pay 770 Rand a month for my 2023 Toyota Corolla Cross from Outsurance Comprehensive.
Do it now. Go to outsurance.co.za for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
What is Ushuni, you say? Ushuni has a musical gift and can transform a song. Ushuni can fuse folk music with a popular urban beat or tune. Ushuni can take us on a beautiful musical journey. Ushuni way to Gelo. Join us in unearthing South Africa's next folk music star. 40 talented contestants from around South Africa competing for the ultimate grand prize of 500,000 Rand cash and a recording deal. Angeke basikhone with Ushuni Womhlaba, starting 7 July, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on SABC1.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
12 minutes now to 7 the time. You know the number, of course, 086 000 2032. There's still so many issues around what's been happening in Parliament. It's been a busy place in equal education. They've been calling for Zizi Kodwa to be removed from the Education Committee in Parliament. It gets us to the question, really, of why he was sworn in the first place despite facing corruption charges. Voice notes coming through this morning as well on 0614 104 107.
Good morning, SAFM. Good morning to the listeners and to the best broadcaster I think the country's ever had, Stephen Grootes. All the best in your future endeavours. Hello. I just want to mention something on Cape Town with all the rain they're having, and sure, it's been a lot, too much obviously, but I hope in 6 months, a year's time, we're not hearing about a drought in day zero. You know, as much as the rain is a menace, and I get it, it's devastating, and that I just hope that the guys are planning and can utilise the water for future growth in Cape Town, because water is a massive issue there, and if they use the opportunity and somehow manage to harvest this water and keep it, I think they'll be in a good position. Brad Marisburg.
Brad, thank you, very kind of you. Look, I remember speaking, I think it was the Director General in Water Affairs, Dr. Sean Phillips, a few months ago on air, and he made the point that, you know, there's a certain amount, I think they call it runoff, and there's a way of working out how much of the water you can actually keep. Never mind whether you've got the best system in the world, there's a sort of limit to how much you can store. It's a really important point. 11 minutes now to 7.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Not a bad start this Friday around Gauteng province. Everything's sort of where it should be in terms of the usual route congestion, although this one just coming in. It's a crash near Linksfield. So the N3 coming up from Germiston, Bedfordview on your way through Galooly. You've got the left lane closure at Van Buren slowing things up, and then a crash delay into that Edenvale area. Southern parts of KZN, the N2 blocked again at Islingolweni. If you've got plans to go between Port Shepstone and Harding, probably a good idea to leave it till much later this morning or even into the afternoon once the authorities have had a chance to clear the road, clear the protesters and get things reopened. And of course the flooding in the Western Cape is pretty severe, and really we should be considering any plans to sort of travel inland parts be postponed as well. And the rivers are already overflowing. It's still raining. There's a lot more water coming down those rivers, so what would normally happen following big rains is the flooding that follows that is due to get worse. Now the N1, the main route in and out of Cape Town, closed effectively between Toes-Rivier and Durrance. The alternative through Cirrus, the R46 route out to Toes-Rivier, that's also closed. And we're just hearing of closures going in Robertson to Worcester on the R60. So routes are limited, and any of those sort of alternative routes that you might be shipped onto are likely to be subject to flooding as well. So very dangerous conditions, inland parts of the Western Cape with all that flooding and the road closures as well. Truckers, I believe, are just being parked up at whatever rest stops they can find and waiting for it to abate and the roads to be reopened. Franschhoek Park pass linking Villiers, Dorp and Franschhoek, that stays closed on account of weather, and Clarence Drive, the R44 Gordons Bay through Royales also stays closed. It'll be the long way round via Crabo and Solaris Pass to get from Gordons Bay to the Overstrand area or vice versa. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
It can never be freezing cold with SABC Sport on board this July.
The 12 Nations battle in the Hollywood Betskasapo Cup will reveal the ultimate Southern African champs.
Nsanti's Queens of the Beautiful Game display real passion in the Hollywood Bet Super League.
The Germans are in town as Vivian Wiesbaden tackles the Citizens and Stellies, while FC Augsburg clashes with TS Galaxy FC.
While Sport at 10 gives you a solid reason to stay awake on Wednesday nights.
TKO brings you in-depth analysis in the boxing world.
Top sport journalists table-spoiling conversations on the Jonas Vodcast. Meanwhile, Foot Afrique zooms into continental football.
Countdown to Paris goes downhill towards the Olympic Games Paris 2024, kicking off on 26 July.
NBA Lifestyle, Youth Sport Show Goats Like Us, Final Analysis, EFC 115, and many more. Happy Madiba Month.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
Do you have fresh musical talent lighting up your timeline or making waves in your community?
Well, we want to see them shine, so send their details to our WhatsApp line on 063-408-8863 and they could perform live on Expresso.
Discover the hottest new artists and be part of the excitement.
Catch Expresso weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3 and be part of the magic.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag SAFM Sunrise.
7 minutes to 7. Good morning. Friday morning. Confirmation from the National Prosecuting Authority yesterday afternoon. It's now studying the inquest finding that the former Gauteng Health MEC, Qadani Mahlangu, and former mental health head, Dr. Makgabo Manamela, are criminally liable for the deaths of some of the 144 people who died in the Life Esidimeni tragedy. And through this entire drama over the last 8 years, there have been several NGOs who've played prominent roles. Firstly, trying to stop people being forced out of the Life Esidimeni facility. Secondly, helping the victims and families afterwards. And then after that, in their search for justice. Lisa Vetten's a research associate at the Southern Centre for Inequality Studies, also at the University of Johannesburg. Lisa, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen, and good morning to your listeners.
It's a really interesting case study in the sort of role of NGOs. How important have they been through all of this?
They have been crucial, and I think as they are becoming increasingly, have been crucial for many years, just in terms of, I think, of holding the state to account, of not remaining silent, and I think being really dogged in their pursuit of justice. And I think, obviously, because they're outside of government, they can act with an independence that government officials can't when it comes to holding people to account.
We see NGOs playing what really looks like a very prominent role in our society. And I think, more and more prominent perhaps. And there are many, many positives to this. So in many cases, they're helping people. They're doing things that aren't done by anyone else. But doesn't it also reveal a problem with government services? I mean, in a world with a perfect government, doesn't exist, but in a world with a perfect government, I don't know if you'd have NGOs.
That's entirely correct. I mean, I think you will always probably have some need for community associations, people who need to get together to act on things that they see in their community that bring together and create solidarity. But I think when it comes to services, in an ideal world, you would have a government that provides them and provides them effectively. But that's not the case. So I think, NGOs are both symptomatic of a problem, I think in addition to in trying to solve the problem as well.
Some NGOs play what can be seen almost as a political role. And I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I remember at the beginning of the Esidimeni, as it was coming to light and how bad it was, and we sort of started to realize what exactly had happened, and it took a while. I mean, it seemed to me that actually government was quite grateful to have NGOs because it provided a structure for them to talk to. Someone needed to actually represent victims. And I'm sure there are times when government officials themselves, probably happening in Cape Town right now, will contact NGOs. The relationship between government and NGOs can be quite difficult at times and quite positive at other times.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I think there's been the friction generated around the grey listing of South Africa and the attempt to, what I think often looks like an attempt to clamp down and control NGOs through over-regulation. But I think, the strength of NGOs is that they are embedded in communities in the way that government is not. So they have a reach and a contact that government simply doesn't have, and they're much more nimble. They're not tied down by the kind of bureaucracy. They can be much more innovative, faster than government. So they bring very many benefits. And I think there's a lot to be said for understanding how civil society and governmental power can combine to be very effective. I mean, if you look at Gift to the Givers, for example, their reach in terms of disasters is well beyond that of government.
And there are various reasons for that. I mean, government has to account for money because it's tax money and all the rest, all sorts of things. One of the interesting tensions in this relationship is that government and provincial governments often fund NGOs, usually through the Social Development Department. And in Gauteng, there's still this very difficult situation where NGOs, which have received money for a long time, have not received money. And the last time you and I spoke about this, their applications for funding just hadn't been responded to. Is there any movement on that? I mean, this funding, this government money is vital to NGOs who provide a service. Lisa Vetten, I think that line might have dropped to Lisa Vetten, unfortunately. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see if we're able to get her back or what's actually happened there. Lisa, I'm not sure if you're there at the moment, but it seems that something has gone wrong with that conversation there. So not entirely sure if we are going to be able to get her back just to continue that, because I do think that there's an important issue to look at there. So sorry about that. Very strange in a way that halfway through the conversation, it just seems to disappear. Anyway, a lot more news to come in the next little while as well. You know the number, of course. Lisa, I think you're back with us? No, unfortunately.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, all right. I was making the point that government funds NGOs. NGOs have been waiting to hear from the Gauteng provincial government about their funding for this year. Has there been any movement on this dispute?
There has been. I mean, but we are in a situation where we are now 3.5 months down the line and there still remain organizations who are unpaid. It looks at the number is sitting at around about 40 at this point in time. Then you still have another 93 organizations who are waiting to hear what government is actually going to fund them. And then you have another smaller portion of organizations where there are disputes around, I think, how the department is understanding compliance. So I think we're looking still at about 150 organizations who remain in limbo. And obviously the services that they provide have also been ground to a halt. I think for many organizations, July is really perhaps as far as they can go without any further funding from the department. So we've made some progress. I think the new MEC is starting to move things, but we are not out of the woods by a long shot.
Lisa Vetten, thank you very much indeed. Research Associate at the Southern Centre for Inequality Studies, also at the University of Johannesburg's Faculty of Humanities. Really important story. All right, coming up in the next little while, more on the prepaid electricity charge that's been imposed in Joburg. Looks like things are sort of changing direction there in some way. Also, this mayor of the city of Cape Town on the situation in Cape Town after more rain overnight, more on the Western Cape as well. Your cause too. Good to have you along with us this morning. There's a lot more to come. Don't forget, by the way, from 8:30, your story of the week. If you want to speak to him, do. If you want to book your spot now's a good moment. 086 000 2032. You're with SAFM leading the conversation Friday morning, 7 o'clock.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, NPA to ensure accountability in Esidimeni tragedy and 2 more confirmed Mpox cases. Good morning. The NPA says it has taken note of the judgment delivered by the Pretoria High Court on Wednesday in the Life Esidimeni inquest and will work with the police services to prioritise all outstanding investigations into the matter. It says they are committed to ensuring accountability for any criminal conduct related to the tragedy. Former Gauteng Health MEC Kedani Mahlangu and former Gauteng Mental Health Head Dr. Magabo Manamela were found liable for the deaths of 10 of the 144 patients. NPA spokesperson Lumka Mahanjana.
It should be also noted that an inquest does not necessarily equate to a trial-ready case, as there may be additional criminal investigations that needs to be concluded. The NPA will prioritize this matter together with the SAPS to ensure that any outstanding investigations are expedited so that the DPP can make a decision.
The Department of Health has recorded 2 more confirmed cases of Mpox this week. It brings the total number of cases to 22 since the outbreak in May. The number of deaths remain at 3. The latest cases include a 40-year-old man diagnosed at a private health facility in Durban on the 6th of this month. The patient is from Johannesburg but travelled to Durban over the past weekend. The other case is a 26-year-old man from Ngutu in KwaZulu-Natal who presented with an Mpox-like rash to a local hospital. The public is advised to remain cautious and take necessary precautions to prevent the spread of Mpox. The pre-trial hearing of the defunct VBS Mutual Bank matter will start on the 22nd of this month in the High Court in Pretoria. This after the court sentenced former board chairperson Chifiwa Matodzi to 15 years in prison for multiple counts of racketeering, theft, fraud and money laundering. The National Prosecuting Authority spokesperson Lumka Mahanjana.
Madodzi's offences led to the demise of VBS under his tenure, which included a loss of more than 2.2 billion rands through unlawful activities. This sentence agreement forms part of an ongoing broader prosecution strategy to ensure accountability for all involved in the looting of VBS.
Meanwhile, some investors in the now-defunct VBS Mutual Bank have expressed mixed reactions over the sentencing of the bank's former chairperson.
This really hurt us and our children. The money that I saved was for taking my children to university. The bank was our future, and now it is all history that will forever be a bad memory to me, who has put a lot of money. I am not happy with the sentencing that they gave Chifiwa Matodzi. Many people lost their lives because of all the money they stole from us. They should increase the years.
The South African Maritime Safety Authority says salvage work continues on the MV Ultra Galaxy, the Panama-registered cargo ship that ran aground on the Cape West Coast. SAMSA spokesperson Tebogo Ramachi says 18 Filipino crew members abandoned the ship on Tuesday evening. He says expert salvage teams are conducting surveys of the surrounding areas as well as the vessel. The ship has a full load of bagged fertilizer and also contains sulfur bunkering fuel as well as hydraulic and related oils on board. Further afield, and finally, US President Joe Biden says he's best qualified to govern and the best qualified to win. Biden was responding to questions from journalists at the conclusion of the NATO summit in Washington, with pressure building from quarters within the Democratic Party that he exit the presidential race after his debate performance 2 weeks ago. Biden said he was determined to run. Showan Bryce Peace reports it's unclear whether last night's performance will do enough to stem rising political tide over concerns about his viability against Republican Donald Trump.
Biden's night was not without gaps. Before the presser, he referred to Ukraine's President Zelensky as President Putin before catching himself, and later responding to a question about what concerns he may have about Vice President Kamala Harris's ability to beat Trump, he referred to her as Vice President Trump. But he also gave substantive answers on domestic and foreign policy, while at times meandering through his process. He said he was willing to have a neurological exam if his doctors recommended such, but touted his record of accomplishment as proof he was up to the job. The president said he believed staying in the race was the best call, and that he was not doing this for his legacy, but to complete the job he'd started.
Recapping the top story, the NPA says it has taken note of the judgment delivered by the Pretoria High Court on Wednesday in the Life Esidimeni inquest and will work with the police services to prioritise all outstanding investigations into the matter. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Do you think you're paying too much on your car insurance? 56-year-old Dylan said no to sky-high insurance premiums. He's now insured with Outsurance and only pays 756 Rand a month to insure his white 2023 Haval Jolion S. To follow in Dylan's footsteps, simply SMS out to 30754 for a quote. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, we're building up to the Springboks taking on the Irish tomorrow. They have Kalen Doris to captain the team against the Boks, while in soccer news, Rulani Mokoena has swiftly moved on from Mamelodi Sundowns. Details coming up just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy traffic around four ways. A crash on Cedar and Witkoppen roads. Both of those routes under some real pressure this morning. Lights are down on Solomon Mashlango as you head down towards Garsfontein Road, having left Silver Lake. So a bit of extra backlogging there today, as we saw yesterday as well. Port Shepstone through to Harding. Protesters blocking the National N2 at Islingolweni. A good idea to travel later today once that scene has been cleared and the rubble has been cleared from the carriageway as well. Cape Town is all a bit busier today than it was yesterday. Big volumes back in the mix today. The N2 inbound from Boonga Avenue slow to Hospital Bend. The N1 pretty slow going as well. Plattekloof right through to the elevated freeway to the city centre. It is still raining across Cape Town, so make sure you're travelling safely with some extra time to get through the backlogs. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
8 after 7, good morning. You're with SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Curtis. All right, more to come, of course, on the situation in Joburg, the charge on prepaid, the surcharge that's been put on prepaid electricity customers. And in a way, it gets to the heart of the kind of cost of living crisis that we've seen over the last few years, or seen getting worse over the last few years. Let me put it like that, rather. And it's a kind of symbol of all of the problems. It was an increase. It was a surcharge on top of the increase at a time when many people can't pay just to cook food at the moment. So we'll be talking about that. Also, more on the flooding in Cape Town. The mayor of Cape Town, Jordan Hill-Lewis, just confirming to our producer Amanda, he'll be available for us in about 12 minutes' time. Very important just to hear after more heavy rain overnight, and of course more to come in the next few days there. From 8:30, your story of the week. What matters to you this week? You know the number, 086 000 2032. 9 after 7, good morning.
Channel the forgiving spirit of Utata Matiba on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as community development practitioner Taryn Liebau shares how he rebuilt a nation with the power to forgive. We discuss the magic of making a child's dream come true and cook up Matiba's favorite oxtail with umngusho. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
Shopping sprees. Catching flights while others catch feelings. Shaking that thing while sipping on some bubbles on a yacht in Dubai. Some call it living soft. You know, njofo. Tune into Sugar Baby Dating, a highly revealing documentary that lifts the lid of the sugar baby dating phenomenon and talks to girls who have a string of rich older men funding their lifestyles and the women that feel damaged by the whole experience. This Thursday at 10 p.m. Is it just a little frivolous fun? Or is there a sinister side to sugar baby dating? Channel your inner curiosity with Sugar Baby Dating, 11 July at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
SAFM 104 to 107. Nationwide.
10 after 7, good morning. Well, the head of finance in the city of Joburg, the ANC's Dada Morero, has confirmed this week that the city is going to review the charge of 200 rand that's being imposed every month on people who use prepaid electricity. Joburg City Power imposed the charge at the beginning of the month. It's called a network charge. It's supposed to pay for the cost of the network. In other words, the city says people must not just pay only for the electricity they use, but also for the money it costs to keep up the transformers and cabling that get the electricity into their homes. And the Joburg Mayor, El Jamaz Kabelo Gwamanda, said that the charge will stay. It seems to be a little bit of a difference in the informal working relationship, I think it's called, in the city of Joburg at the moment. Julius Kleinhans is the Executive Manager for Local Government at the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse. Julius, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Always a pleasure, thank you.
Do you expect this review to actually happen? I mean, it happens so often. Politicians will introduce something, there's an outcry, there'll be a promise of a review, not always clear what happens next. Do you think that's going to happen in this case?
Yeah, we trust that it will happen. I think it's very important, especially to bring relief to the poor. I think that the indigent grant is not accurate and people are not subsidized adequately. So I think this has come to a surprise to many people and unfortunately put them under a severe pressure because of financial constraints. And obviously, with local elections coming up in 2 years from now, I think from a political point of view, it's political suicide.
It was interesting it wasn't announced before the election.
Yeah, of course. I think there's a lot of things that didn't take place. There wasn't proper public participation in this process. In any case, I think if you look at all the public engagement in the budget and IDP process, it was not in the presentation. So it was hidden in the budget itself, which thankfully we through our Joburg Plan initiative could participate in and oppose. But unfortunately, it was pushed through and now we can see the results of that.
One of the things about it is technically, to me, it seems to be quite confusing because yes, most people probably pay for prepaid electricity sort of once a week or once a month, and the idea is that you'd pay 200 rand a month. But it's never clear to me, still isn't clear to me, what happens if someone pays for, say, 6 weeks or 3 months' worth of electricity at once, how that 200 rand is ever then going to be recovered. We spoke to the head of tariffs from City Power about this, and I still am afraid to say wasn't entirely clear after that interview. There's an element of confusion to this, and when you have an element of confusion, people then really don't want to pay if they don't understand it.
Yeah, I think there's two matters of confusion here. Firstly, we'll see what happens in the second month because we've also asked for clarity and are yet to receive that. We've also issued a buyer request to understand the cost of service or cost of supply on electricity because, as you've mentioned now, it's confusing buying it and when it's deducted. So we've already seen now in this month that when people buy the units, that 230 rand, that includes VAT, on the surcharge is deducted first, and then after that they get what's left is the units, and it's very little compared to last month. But how they're supposed to create these tariffs are cost of supply. That includes the grid distribution. So in the past, we've heard the city say that the prepaid electricity tariffs are higher than postpaid because they are including the grid and distribution. And according to municipal law, your tariffs need to reflect that cost. So these additional surcharges does not make sense. And I think this is where we believe, the city needs to get its house in order because it's owed about 7 billion rand on electricity tariffs or outstanding debt. How are they recovering that cost? And they're losing about 23% of the electricity through distribution. So instead of upping the rates and the tariffs and costing more of a burden on those who actually pay, and especially your prepaid consumers who don't get into debt because they pay in advance, rather fix your grid and cut costs. 7 billion rand, I can't see how the city's going to get that money back, and that's before we even discuss the impact of all of this on the number of illegal connections. I just get the sense that Joburg, and I understand their position, and this surcharge goes back, I think, to 2018, they are in a position where they're desperate for money, and when you're desperate for money and people are paying prepaid, this is a very easy way to get it. No, I think, casting the burden on people who pay, but it's not fair, it's not sustainable. And look, that 7 billion rand that we've just touched on is on electricity. It's about 40 billion in general in the city's debt, and that hasn't come overnight. So I think that is just bad debt collection practices. But however, the city also receives exceptional amount of money from National Treasury on grants. We're talking about 950,000 households that are qualified, and they're talking about 650,000 odd households that are, potentially indigent communities or households within the city. Yet, the city's figures reflect about 30,000 indigent households who are receiving this, on prepaid charges. So they are, because the indigent register is not accurate and they're not, I suppose, spending the money they're getting from National Treasury properly, they're casting a lot of pressure on communities. And yes, I think the unintended consequences, if you cannot afford the electricity, is the illegal connections and all these kind of things that happen afterwards.
You talk about a PIRE application. Are you looking at a legal application as well if this review doesn't actually happen? And I mean, it's hard to predict decisions in Joburg at the moment because of the nature of the government, or the administration rather. But I mean, if there's no review, if this charge stays, and I could see an argument from the city as to why they think it might need to stay, would you go to court to try and undo it? And I don't know if there'll be a legal basis. It is a decision of council.
Yeah, look, the council has passed it. We are looking at the potential of a proper public participation process. And, the legal angles are the last resort. But if they didn't follow due process, then one can take this on review. There's another term called the PAJA application where if the state makes a decision that's irrational, that's got severe implications on civil society, then you can obviously go and challenge that. But yeah, one has to understand that municipalities have the right to charge money and provide services. I think the strong argument that we need to look at is within the leadership of the city of Johannesburg and the efficiency and cost of supply. These services cost us more every year, but it's not like we're getting any better and more sustainable services. And I think that's where the focus should be. And then lastly, the indigent register. I think it must be very important for the city to prioritize ensuring that communities that are in need of subsidization get onto this register, that the process is not as much as a burden on these communities, but also that they have access to the free basic services they deserve and need.
Thank you very much indeed. Julius Kleinhans is Executive Manager for Local Government at the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse. As I say, this is charge in a way has become such a symbol of so many of the problems that we face around the cost of living, but also around issues around electricity and electricity billing. And I suspect over time, these issues are going to turn into much more technical disputes, complicated disputes in the next few months. 18 minutes after 7.
Bridget Masinga.
And now we're almost comparing apples to oranges, and you go, hey, but Siri said this is a red sign. And now you take it and you put it in your relationship and you go, hey, actually Siri was right, this is a red sign. Kanti, maybe in your relationship, you're taking it out of context of a situation.
You've nailed it. And when you're saying apples to oranges, at least they're fruit. You find sometimes we're comparing apples to cabbages, and just because they're both green does not mean they work. The problem with social media lately is the standards are too high, and we don't know who sets these standards, and we've got all these different people on social media that think life works according to their definitions or their standards or even their expectations.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
Well, 19 after 7 in the Western Cape, more intense rain again yesterday, and I presume through much of the night as well. The number I have is at least 15,000 people have now been displaced. Others evacuated in the area around Newton. There's still more warnings also about rain this weekend, and many schools that are closed. Some areas more damaged, facing more difficulties than others. In an important way, one of the focal points of this, of course, is the city of Cape Town. Jordan Hill-Lewis is the mayor of the city of Cape Town. Jordan, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
What is the picture there this morning? How bad was the rain overnight?
Stephen?
Jordan, if you're still with us, how bad was the rain overnight?
Very little rain overnight, Stephen. Thankfully, it is drizzling now still, but very light drizzle, and a little bit of rain overnight, but nothing major. But the last 4 days, we've had more than 200 millimeters of rain in Cape Town dumped on the city. So it's been an unbelievable storm, and quite something to remember. Many people say they can't remember such a big and wet storm in our city.
Is it possible to get a full assessment now of what's happened over the last few days? When it's raining, it's difficult to do that. Are you now able to actually work out exactly what's happened?
In terms of damages?
Yes.
Yes, we've done a comprehensive assessment. Our disaster teams have been on the ground since day one, basically going door to door doing assessments. And we've got more than 35,000 people, families in the city, Stephen, who have suffered some kind of flood damage that could vary from ankle-deep water, a relatively minor impact, to very severe with knee-deep or deeper water. Then, of course, you've got lots and lots of electricity outages and trees that have fallen over, some big, huge old trees. We've had a couple of homes whose roofs have blown off. So a lot of damage that is relatively minor in nature, nothing catastrophic, but still is very inconvenient and takes a long time to sort out. And then, of course, the focus turns to how do you help those people with really severe impact on their homes? How do you try and alleviate that really tough condition?
I mean, are you able to give people, I think you give them flood packs and things like that? What do people get in those packs? How do they help?
They help to keep your home dry if it is still raining, and help to dry up the water. If your home is completely inundated, if it's knee deep in water, the flood pack simply doesn't help. Then we try to find higher ground for those who are worst affected, or we are working with the National Department of Human Settlements to arrange alternative accommodation temporarily, whether it be in school halls or our community halls. Some churches have volunteered and so on. And then you have to just wait for that water to drain away. If there's no place for that person to go, you have to wait for that water to drain away, and that sometimes in some areas can take a few hours at best, and in other places a few days.
It looks like there could still be quite some more rain over the weekend, and in some ways, the more water there is over time, it gets sort of worse and worse. Is there anything you can do to try and prepare for that? And I can't see what you could do, mainly because there's so much water already.
Yes, there really isn't much that you can do, because most of the blockages, if there were stormwater blockages, they've been very prominent this week. So the teams have already addressed that. So from street blockage point of view, that should all be okay. And it is not a huge amount of water coming. I think we're estimated to get another 25 millimeters over the course of the whole weekend. So hopefully that'll be okay. But really the worst impact is for those where the groundwater, the water table has already burst through the ground and is just completely waterlogging those homes. For there, it's very, very difficult to get that water to go anywhere, because that's where it's supposed to go. That is the bottom. And there you have to wait for it to dry out and drain away.
You make the point that this is probably one of the worst storms and certainly the longest periods of intense rain. I know you've lived in Cape Town, I think almost all your life.
Yes.
Have you ever seen anything like this before?
This is certainly the most rain that I can remember. The scientists in the city tell me that it's at least the most rain in about 20 years that they have on records, but they're still checking, and it's not over yet, as you say. So I think, for a good while, at least a couple of decades, this is the wettest rain event.
Jordan Hill-Lewis, thank you. The Mayor in the City of Cape Town, as you can hear, out and about assessing the damage at this stage. And of course, having a huge impact on people over the last few days, and I'm afraid more rain to come, although not as heavy perhaps as what we've seen. We've spoken to climate scientists as well, just explaining the concept of atmospheric rivers that have dumped all of the water, and you heard that earlier in the week. So the Western Cape, big focal point. We'll hear more from the Western Cape as a province in a little while. You were with SFM 25 minutes after 7.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, KG Mweketi.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. What's the latest?
Stephen, we've got the rugby, and it's the eighth man, Kalen Doris, will lead Ireland in the second test against the Springboks in Durban tomorrow, which kicks off at 5 p.m. Coach Andy Farrell has benched regular skipper Peter Mahoney in this must-win match for Ireland to level the series at 1-1. The Springboks, fresh from their 27-20 victory in Pretoria, they remain unchanged under coach Rassie Erasmus. More rugby. Despite a dismal season in World Rugby 7 Series, the Blitzboks are aiming high. They want to improve on their performance at the Rio Games that they did previously, but they've also wanted to focus now ahead to Paris. The team is currently in camp in Johannesburg preparing, with Blitzbok coach Philip Snyman giving us an insight.
I thought it's only the right thing to do is to reward the guys that did the final job in Monaco to qualify, and not only that, they really played well. We came together, I think we sorted out the defense, and happy with the 12 guys that went to Monaco. They will be the 12 going to Paris. So a lot of experience, a lot of X factor. So I think a really strong squad, and really all my trust and a lot of confidence in this group of players.
Soccer news. Rulani Mokoena has swiftly moved on from Mamelodi Sundowns, signing with Moroccan giants Wydad Casablanca just a week after his departure. Mokoena's exit from Sundowns was marked by tensions with sporting director Fleming Berg over player decisions. Now Mokoena faces a new challenge, acknowledging the task of awakening the sleeping giant that is Wydad, with 22 league titles and 3 Champions League victories. Onto cycling. The history maker Binyam Girmay sprinted to his third victory at this year's Tour de France, but the overall contender Primož Roglic lost significant time after a late crash on stage 12. The Eritrean Girmay became the first black African to win a Tour de France stage with his opening win on stage 3, and he also triumphed on stage 8. Here's Girmay.
Since I start to wear this jersey, I don't know, somehow I felt just super fast, especially on my mind. I just believe I can prove I'm the best. So I don't know, from now on I think every single moment I will paint on the green jersey now.
tennis action, Jasmine Paolini edged out Donna Vekic in the semi-final to become the first Italian to reach a Wimbledon women's singles final. The 7th seed Paolini will face the Czech 31st seed Barbora Krejcikova. Krejcikova claimed a remarkable victory against Elena Rybakina, the 2022 champion. Let's hear from Barbora Krejcikova.
Well, I feel I had to improve everything. I think I definitely got better on faster surfaces. And I feel like I had to develop my game because everybody else is developing their game too. And I mean, it's great that it looks like I made some progress and that I'm in another final.
That's a wrap of your sport on Sunrise. We'll bring you more. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. Well, a lot more to come. We'll be looking more at the flooding in the next half hour. You with SFM leading the conversation 7:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, Mineral and Petroleum Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe says a scientific study of the state of mining is underway. He spoke in Parliament where his department's 2024-2025 budget was debated during a mini-plenary session of the National Assembly yesterday. The NPA says it has taken note of the judgment delivered by the Pretoria High Court on Wednesday in the Life Esidimeni inquest and will work with the police services to prioritize all outstanding investigations into the matter. And US President Joe Biden has misidentified his Vice President Kamala Harris as former President Donald Trump during a high-stakes press conference. Biden also defended his decision to continue his bid for re-election at a crucial media briefing at the NATO summit in Washington yesterday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you're around the Lenasia area, there's quite a backlog this morning on the Golden Highway, both ways around Nirvana Drive. If you're heading from El Dorado Park going south, it's heavy. If you're heading up from Lenasia towards Eldo, it's very heavy on the Golden Highway as well. Crash now, driving into Galuli, so the N12 and R24 routes coming in from Ekurhuleni, really starting to backlog. And there's a bit of congestion around Irene this morning. Now, Napiers Drive between Main and the College, that's fairly heavily disrupted both ways. Over in Durban, the M7 from North Dean, working your way to Pinetown, is slow go. There's some issues out past Hans Detman, and then more trouble as you line up over St John's Avenue Bridge territory. M4 Southern Freeway queuing through Rossua, Gongela and below. It's all to do with their closure of Brook Street around the China Mall demolition site this time of morning, or in fact probably from around about 7:15 onwards to just after 8. It really does back up because of the traffic volumes increasing into that particular closure. Cape Town, the highways, busiest of the lot, the N2 inbound from Langa through to Hospital Bend. Behind that, the M5s backed up from the Kenilworth area. There is a bit of pressure on Marine Drive again this morning, just coming through Sunset Beach towards Racecourse Road area. And the flooding, not so much of a concern in Cape Town Metropolis it was this time yesterday, but really it's sort of inland a bit around Worcester to Durrance up to Toes Rafia, routes that link you from Cirrus through to Toes Rafia. A lot of closures there, including the N1 between the Durrance and Toes Rafia. Also the option to get out on the alternative, the R46 through Cirrus down to Toes Rafia is also closed. And there is some real concern about routes in the Worcester area with rapidly rising water levels, and particularly the R60 route between Worcester and Robertson. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Morning again. How are the markets this morning?
Kicking things off in Asia, those markets mostly mixed after a largely negative day on Wall Street, despite growing confidence of a U.S. interest rate cut. Now, while this plays out, we saw the yen recording big swings yet again as speculation swirled that Japan had stepped into forex markets to support the currency. With that, we're seeing Japan's Nikkei down 2.3% and China's Shanghai index losing 0.09%. Looking at the US, futures are pretty flat. Investors on that end digesting the softer than expected inflation print. Back at home, sentiment is upbeat on the back of the rate cut euphoria. The JSE All-Share closing the day 0.8% higher, while the Rand powered through, touching its best level in 2 weeks at 17.93 to the dollar at one point yesterday. It's currently trading at 18 Rand to the greenback.
And then economists expect the mining sector's poor performance to have a big impact on our GDP in the second quarter.
That's right, Stephen. Now, in a note, FNB economist Tanda Sithole said he remains concerned about the sector's prospects. This comes after a Stats SA print reported that production in that sector remained flat year on year in May. On a monthly basis, output declined 0.6%. This reverses the gains seen at the start of the second quarter, where production was up 0.8%. Now, Sithole said this suggests that the mining sector's gross value added could, depending on the June data print, again drag GDP growth in the second quarter. This then clouds FNB's expectations for a GDP growth rebound following the 0.1% contraction in the first quarter. The weakness in the mining sector has somewhat surprised economists, considering that the country's energy constraints have lessened. Sithole has pointed to a combination of possible negative factors, including a stable yet unsupportive external environment and low commodity prices weighing on that industry.
And then Pfizer moving forward with a once-a-day weight loss pill.
Yes, Stephen. Now, Pfizer, the company most of us know for the COVID-19 vaccine, is one of several drug makers racing to win a slice of the market for a highly popular class of weight loss and diabetes drug called GLP-1 agonist. And so the pharmaceutical company is in the process of developing a once daily weight loss pill. It has already trialed different versions of the drug and said it found that one that is safest and works best with the body. Now, Pfizer will continue trialing the drug for the remainder of the year with hopes that it will identify the ideal dose by the first quarter of next year. Investors in the meantime have lost confidence in the company's ability to succeed in the GLP-1 area, since it canned a weight loss pill last year because it caused liver problems in some patients. Despite this, the group is confident on the new version of the drug as it looks to compete with the likes of Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. Now, that industry is expected to be worth roughly $100 billion by the end of the decade.
Intal Leng, thanks very much indeed. Intal Leng Lechele back with us on Monday. More business news through the day here on SFM. 24 minutes now to 8.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
That's the number. Lots to talk about. Esidimeni still a big issue. The Zizi Kodwa issue also around today. VBS, of course, more coming out of that. The affidavit signed by Tafiwa Matodzi, the former chair, about what he did and who he was giving money to. Floods in Cape Town, a big issue too. Voice notes coming through on 0614104107.
Hi, Stephen. I live in one of the poorest provinces in South Africa, Eastern Cape. Buffalo City, East London, have implemented a network availability charge of 465 Rand per month on their prepaid users. Now, the Joburg guys are crying about their 200 Rand. We've got a 465 Rand with effect on the 1st of July. Mike, East London.
Mike, thank you. I have heard that, and I understand there's court action about it as well, which is quite interesting. So interesting just to see how that plays out. Other voice notes this morning.
Thanks, Steve. Jen here. It's quite weird that we have to pay the 200 Rand charge. I mean, imagine if Vodacom, MTN, and Telkom and the likes were to charge us for buying airtime and using their network towers. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Such an interesting point, actually. Yeah, such a big difference. It's such an important point that you make. Ramakhadi in Witbank, Emila Khleni. Hi, good morning. Isidimeni.
Yes, Chief, how are you?
Yeah, I'm well. Go for it, Ramakhadi.
Okay. Chief, I want to comment about the findings of Esidimeni strategy.
Yeah.
It will be wrong for us not to air our view. As taxpayers, we have lost a lot of money in that strategy due to the neglect of people that are in public servants. So my call to the arm of the law is to let them make sure that these people, the pension funds, must be seized and they must sentence them for a long time, because we cannot have public servants behaving in such a manner. So that is my take, boss.
So their pension funds should be seized. That's quite something, Ramakhadi.
Yes, they must take their pension funds. Remember the money that were given to the family victims of those men. It's a lot of money, and then where does this money coming from? It's coming from us taxpayers. So their pension funds they must be taken away from them. They must make sure that they go to jail without a cent.
All right, Ramakari, thank you. Strong view on the line from Emalakhleni, I can understand. On the subject of pensions, Musa in Craddock, in the Eastern Cape, the two-pot system, Musa, hi.
Morning, Stephen and the team, and also listeners. Stephen, I'm trying to understand the two-pot system, but I'm lost. I don't know whether I can.
Okay,
I read it.
Yeah, let me try, Musa, and I'm no expert. Okay, so you can't look at me for financial advice. Okay, let's just be clear.
Right.
Every year, you put money into your pension. So every month, money from your your salary goes into your pension, right?
Yeah.
And then once a year. So that money will be put into two pots, right? Let's call them the big pot and the small pot. And it's 1/3 of every payment. So if you, for example, give 90 Rand a month to your pension, 30 Rand will go to the small pot, 60 Rand will go to the big pot. Once a year, you will be able to take out what's in the small pot, so the collection of 30 Rands, if I can put it like that.
Yeah, that's the saving pot, yes.
That's the small pot. And you'll be able to take that money out, and the big pot, where you've been putting 60 Rand a month, stays. That's how it works.
Okay, let me ask this one. They say that you cannot access the retirement pot until you retire.
Yeah, that's the big pot, yeah.
That's a big pot. Like now, I'm a truck driver and I'm in my early 40s. Let me say, when I started driving trucks, I put a plan for myself that maybe at the age of 45, I will retire.
Sure.
So by that, they mean I must wait for the early pension of 55 to access my big pot.
I think so. Yes, that's the idea.
No, that's a broad daylight robbery. Because now, let's take, for instance, I've got 100,000 and they say I can only access 30,000 and that's 70,000. I must wait for 15 years to access it.
Yeah. Musa, you'll have to ask someone who's an expert on it. I can't help you at that level.
I found a roadside bargaining council and they didn't give me a clear explanation. Right. And I also asked HR and also Sanlam. Yeah. I didn't get it at all. I'm still lost as we speak.
Yeah, Musa, people are still kind of working parts of it out, so you won't be the only one. Let me say that. Musa, I'm sorry, and you must be feeling very angry about it. So yeah, I mean, I do want to just see what other views have on that as well, on the two-pot system. 18 minutes now to 8 the time. If you know more about it, please 086 000 2032.
If you love premium documentaries, then we know you love Thursday nights on S3. Broadcaster Alice Levine asks if there's anything such as normal when it comes to sex and sexuality in the 2020s. She meets sexual adventurers up and down Britain, those pushing the boundaries of sex, intimacy and relationships. Tune into Sex Actually, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Channel your inner curiosity with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
Here he comes. Hello, guys. You're so dramatic. Hey, bro, it's not me. It's the extra styling kit. The leather seats with the red finish. It's the tow bar, all coming standard with my red Isuzu badge.
Wow, now that is extra. Why be standard when you can get the all-new Isuzu D-Max X Rider from just 8,742 Rand. Prime less 3.5%, 0% deposit, 40% balloon, and 72 months to pay. Get yours today. Finance is subject to approval. Isuzu Finance, a product of West Bank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
City Lads ladies fully understand the big change maximum points can bring. They want out of danger. However, First Touch FC prefer a decent position in the top half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. City Lads Ladies FC versus First Touch Ladies FC on Sunday, 14 July at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Agenda-setting conversations of the day.
16 minutes to 8 the time. Well, let's get another update on the situation around the flooding, not just in Cape Town, but across the Western Cape as a whole. Colin Dana is the Chief Director for Disaster Management for the Western Cape. Colin, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen, and good morning to your listeners.
We've heard from the Mayor of Cape Town about the situation there this morning. What's the picture across the province right now?
Yeah, so north of the city up into the west coast, we still have quite a lot of challenges, specifically up in the Esidimeni Mountains, in the Esidimeni municipality, where we've still got quite a lot of people that have been affected. Were quite a few people cut off in the VBS Bank area, but we work together with SARSA and with Gift of the Givers to get food and to get supplies through to them. Our Department of Infrastructure is working there now to ensure that we can get roads going there. As your traffic report also indicated, north of Worcester, in that Toes River area, we've seen quite a lot of road closures on the N1, which of course is a big problem considering the volume of traffic there. So that was at two places where we saw the Doorns and the Toes River, we saw road closures. The Provincial Traffic's working on that. We also saw some, not closures, but we saw quite a lot of water on the N2. So for the last 2 nights, there's been a lot of water being pumped out at Hoek. And then, yes, there's a lot of people displaced outside of the city as well, especially in the Drakenstein municipality, where there's around 2,000 people. There's about 500 in Stellenbosch. And then also up in the Greater Valley, in the Worcester area, there's around about 200 people displaced. So, you're trying to get humanitarian aid to them as well. So also a lot of electricity failures. Eskom are in our command center, so they are providing us a lot of updates, and their teams are working quite hard there. So yes, it's across the province, Stephen, that we've still got these challenges.
Issues around dams where they're full and rivers that are overflowing. How big a problem is that at the moment? And the area around, I think it's Newton, where people had to evacuate?
Yes, so it is being managed, and most of the evacuations are what we call precautionary evacuations. The government dams, the Department of Water and Sanitation dams, and then also the City of Cape Town dams, we've actually been able to manage quite well. So there's been, ongoing monitoring. We're having things very late at night where we've discussed the flows. Bemishoek Dam at one stage, I wouldn't say it was a concern, but we did know that it was very full, so there was a lot of management that went there in terms of releasing water. So those are all being monitored. We're getting continuous briefings on them. Clearly, it has been a 3 strong cold fronts, so that the rainfall has been quite severe. So, a couple of precautionary evacuations, but we haven't seen any major flooding yet into any, big areas below those dams.
There's still some rain to come over the weekend, and the risk, Colin, I don't need to tell you this, you know it better than I do, is you've had so much water that now it's water upon water. Is that now going to be a problem, the cumulative effect of it? It just gets worse and worse, almost exponentially in a strange way, because, you just have so much water in some places.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we need to accept that is going to be the problem that we're going to be dealing with. Today has not started off badly. We had some rain early morning. At the current moment, there's quite a bit of wind. There's no rain just yet. But also, it's not going to be that much. It's a level 4. And the level 4 is also linked to the fact that we've already had a lot of rain. So it's something that we are planning for, that we are looking at managing specifically in terms of, where we can have the risks with flowing water on roads, rail systems, etc. So that would probably be our big focus today, would to see what further impact there's going to be. Fortunately, it's looking better going into Saturday and Sunday. We are going to see rain again next week, but we haven't had any specific warnings on that yet.
And Colin, I mean, is this, in your experience, is this sort of the worst flooding that we've seen in the Western Cape in your time in this office?
I think for me it's been, if I can say, the most water. So the floods that we saw last year, the 2 big ones we had in June and September, were a lot more devastating in terms of how they damaged bridges, road infrastructure, houses. This has just been a huge accumulation of water that has just built up and built up. We've had a very low death rate. We're very, sad that we did have 1 casualty up to now. That's the first kind of priority, is to not have any casualties. But we haven't had the casualties we had last year, and although they were also pretty low. So I think it's really just been a massive build-up of water more gradually, and not that devastation that we have seen in the past. But definitely one of the biggest I've ever dealt with.
Colin Dynap, thanks very much indeed. Chief Director for Disaster Management in the Western Cape. And of course, so much to deal with there. 11 minutes to 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just on that inland flooding, the main closure really is the N1 between Durance and Tosrefeer. That's the main section that's closed now. No way through on that section. Down, if you are sort of Worcester, Durance locally, you can use that route. But on top of the closure between Durance and Tosrefeer, you've also got the R46 route that takes you out through Cirrus to Tosrefeer, which can act as a bypass around the N1 closure. That is also shut due to flooding as well. Other busy routes that remain closed due to weather conditions, Franschhoek Pass, Franschhoek through to Villiersdorp, that is shut. The Clarence Drive option between Gordons Bay and Royales remains closed as well. If you're driving into Cape Town, fairly busy on the N2 inbound from Langa through to Hospital Bend, the M5 from Rondebosch up through to Barclay Road in the Maitland area. It's fairly slow as well. Joburg side this morning, not the worst run. A little bit of pressure on the N3 north from Germiston through to Galilees. That's about the heaviest of the highways. N1 out of Pretoria down through Midrand, also looking pretty good. And if you're around Durban, the N2 stays heavily backed up. M7 through towards Westwood Mall. M4 from Umbilo in towards the city centre. That's grinding away slowly with the closure of Brook Street. And there's some traffic troubles getting into Pinetown. The M7 is quite heavy up towards St John's Avenue Bridge. Back in the queue around the N3 highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Channel the forgiving spirit of Utata Madiba on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as community development practitioner Taryn Liebau shares how he rebuilt a nation with the power to forgive. We discuss the magic of making a child's dream come true and cook up Madiba's favorite oxtail with umngusho. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
Shopping sprees, catching flights while others catch feelings, shaking that thing while sipping on some bubbles on a yacht in Dubai. Some call it living soft. You know, njofo. Tune into Sugar Baby Dating, a highly revealing documentary that lifts the lid of the sugar baby dating phenomenon and talks to girls who have a string of rich older men funding their lifestyles and the women that feel damaged by the whole experience. This Thursday at 10 p.m. Is it just a little frivolous fun? Or is there a sinister side to sugar baby dating? Channel your inner curiosity with Sugar Baby Dating, 11 July at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
All right, lots going on this morning. You know the number, of course. Sibonelo on the line from Umlazi. Also around the two-pot retirement system. We heard that call a little earlier. Sibonelo, how do you feel about it?
Hey, morning, Stephen. Hey, I just want to put it on everyone. Financial literacy is a very dangerous thing. If you are not financially literate, it's important that you get yourself financially literate.
Yeah.
Now, let me put it this way. Your retirement, your pension fund, is not meant to be accessed. The only reason why you have a pension fund is to maintain your lifestyle. Meaning, if you are earning 20,000 Rand, your pension fund is designed such that at the point where you retire, the monthly interests are equivalent to that 20,000 Rand lifestyle that you are living.
Mm.
So the whole point of accessing it is out the window. You are not meant to access it for no reason.
Yeah.
Whether it's on a two-pot system, one-pot system, three-pot system, because the moment you take out 10 Rand or 20 Rand from that amount, I promise you, you will not live your lifestyle. And you are not, because you get paid for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. What are you doing with that money?
It's and this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, also money you've put in 20 years ago is worth twice what it is now, whatever it is. It's the magic of compound interest.
8 times, actually.
Wow,
every 10 years, every 10 years, it's 8 times more.
Sure.
So removing 10,000 Rand today, you are losing 80,000 Rand in 10 years' time. You will never be able to recuperate that. Even if whatever type of reinvestment you try to put back in there, the moment you withdraw from that money, for us who are not going to withdraw that money, in 20 years' time, you guys are going to be living on the government pension fund. And we all know, for us who are working, you will never live on a government fund. You will never. And the reason why I'm calling is because it is dangerous to have people in power who do not understand the financial instruments that they are busy moving around.
Yeah.
Because the pension funds that they are taking out, that are asking people to take out, are the same pension funds that are used to fund ESCOM, to fund Transnet, to fund governments, to fund every. Now, if you're taking all that money out, how are all these government institutions going to be funded?
No, sure. Sibonelo, do you work in the industry, or are you just your average SAFM listener?
I do work in the industry.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Sibonelo on the line from Mlazi. And Sibonelo is right. Put money in, do not take it out. 5 minutes to 8.
Agenda-setting conversations of the day.
Well, one of the big stories over the last couple of months in Gauteng and some of the northern provinces has been around Rand Water's big maintenance program. Some areas of Joburg were without water for a little while. A couple of weeks ago, while that was being carried out. Let's get an update on it. Makanosi Maru is the spokesperson at Rand Water. Makanosi, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen, and good morning to your listeners.
How much progress have you made? Are you able to keep to your schedule?
Yes, actually, we are ahead of schedule and we are progressing quite well. We have completed about 10 major projects. So we are moving along, and the big project that we are moving to will be on the 15th of July, to be on Monday. So we are moving quite well.
And are there going to be other areas in Joburg that will be without water in the next couple of days and weeks as you continue this project?
Stephen, as we indicated at the beginning, that we are trying our level best not to have areas without water. So we are really not taking out completely water. We are throttling so that people continue having water. And when there are challenges, that's where municipalities come in. So we are going to be working at the Sekerbosch, where we are replacing defective valves. So that's a big project that we're working at. But major projects have been completed.
Okay. Over the last 2 years, so we're in July now, and at the end of August, it'll start to warm up, well, let's hope. And then in September, the last 2 Septembers, you've had problems where you haven't been able to provide enough water in some areas. And Makanosi, I say you as Rand Water, but I realize you're kind of stuck in the middle between the amount of water you're allowed to take out of the Vaal Dam from national government and the demand that comes from the municipalities and the water that gets wasted and all the rest. Either way, there have been supply problems because of the high demand when it starts to get hot again in September. After all of the maintenance that you've done this year, is that going to happen again for the 3rd year in a row?
You know what, Stephen, we are really working hard with the 3 metros, because that's where the high consumption is, to ensure that we are prepared for the high demand season. As it is, we have plans in place. We are meeting every morning so that when come end of September, we are ready. We are monitoring the demand as it is, and we are balancing the system.
Okay, so you're not going to say yes or no at this point. I mean, I understand that, but obviously we would expect demand to go up again quite dramatically at that time.
Yes, and you know what? We are encouraging municipalities to introduce the water conservation system, to also have the campaigns where they're encouraging residents to use water sparingly. And we are saying, if people are not listening, there must be a system in place where we say, let's manage the demand. Either we throttle the system where there is too much high demand up until the system is balancing out, then we're saying the system is being managed properly.
We've seen a change at the top in terms of the minister. Was Senzo Mqunu, now Pemi Madrodina. I'm sure you won't have had engagements with her yet. The ministers are still sort of sorting things out, and I don't blame them for that. I would presume you're not expecting any major changes in strategy with regard to water. Your role will stay as it was.
You know what? We are not expecting much changes, Stephen. We know that how government works. We are a government entity. Our policies are still the same. We're still supplying water to various municipalities in different provinces. So we're not really expecting major changes, and we are looking forward to working with the new minister.
Makanosi Maru, thank you. Rand Water spokesperson.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
Voice notes coming through this morning on 0614 104 107.
Good morning, SG and all the listeners. I actually firmly believe that all the people who looted the VBS Bank, they have to face the consequences. There have to be some accountability of some sort. They have to be charged, tried, and they have to be sent to jail just like Matodzi. This is Rez from Tanin.
Rez, thank you. Yeah, lots of issues there. Other voice notes?
Good morning, Stephen. Happy here from Pretoria. A very interesting observation since the cabinet was announced is that why do we call these ministers DA minister, PA minister, PAC minister, IFP minister, ANC minister? Why don't we just call these guys minister of whatever they are? I mean, in the last administration, we have never called the good leader a good minister. We've always called the Minister of Infrastructure in the beginning and later on Minister of Tourism. So let's stop labeling these ministers. Let them call them what they are. Let them do their work without their political parties interfering or political names coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I have thought about that, and I must say I started doing this when the coalition government started in local government. You know, I'd say the DA councillor or the ANC councillor or whatever, because it's important. Let me put it another way. If there was a DA Minister of Land Reform who said the government now believes in land expropriation without compensation, I think we need to know where the party comes from. That would be a very big story. When you have a PAC minister there, it's not such a big story, if you see what I mean. So I think when we're trying to understand exactly what's happening, you need to know the power relationships, and that's why I personally have taken the decision to do that. I understand it's contested, there is an argument against it, but I think it provides a clearer picture of what's really going on if we do it in that way. But I do accept there are arguments against it. You're with SFM leading the conversation, 8 o'clock.
In our top stories, a scientific study on the state of mining underway, and Biden confuses his vice president for Donald Trump. Good morning. Mineral and Petroleum Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe says a scientific study of the state of mining is underway. He spoke in Parliament where his department's 2024-2025 budget was debated during a mini-plenary session of the National Assembly yesterday. The department has a budget of just over 11 billion rand for the year under review. Mantashe says the aim of the study is to get a true reflection of what the mining sector in the country looks like.
In our quest to try for evidence-based policy making, we are currently drafting a report on state of mining. We have taken that decision deliberately because every lazy analyst writes about mining, sometimes not taking care of facts. We are commissioning a study where it will be a study that gives you scientific evidence on the state of mining in the country.
The NPA says it has taken note of the judgment delivered by the Pretoria High Court on Wednesday in the Life Esidimeni inquest and will work with the police services to prioritise all outstanding investigations into the matter. It says they are committed to ensuring accountability for any criminal conduct related to the tragedy. Former Gauteng Health MEC Qedani Mahlangu and former Gauteng Mental Health Head Dr. Magabo Manamela were found liable for the deaths of 10 of the 144 patients. NPA spokesperson Lumka Mahanjana.
It should be also noted that an inquest does not necessarily equate to a trial-ready case, as there may be additional criminal investigations that needs to be concluded. The NPA will prioritize this matter together with the SAPS to ensure that any outstanding investigations are expedited so that the DPP can make a decision.
The bail application of the man accused of fatally stabbing a Durban woman, Halima Hussein Preston, at her home last month has been postponed by the Durban Magistrates Court. Grayson Bear is charged with the murder and 2 counts of attempted murder for also attacking a husband and son. Hussein Preston's family believes Bear killed Halima because of her support of Palestine. At the last appearance, the state told the court that the district surgeon had declared him fit to stand stand trial. NPA spokesperson in KwaZulu-Natal, Natasha Ramkison-Kara, says the defence has requested they undergo a second mental evaluation.
The matter appeared before the Durban Magistrates Court. The matter had been set down for bail application. However, the defence advised the court that they would like to bring an application for a further mental assessment of the accused. The court then adjourned the matter to the 24th of July to hear that application.
KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Cooperative Governance Tulasizwe Buthelezi has called on national government to allocate more resources to local municipalities to deal with the aftermath of natural disasters. Buthelezi spoke to the media during his visit to the Gazu family in Eshowe in northern KwaZulu-Natal yesterday. 67-year-old Muntu Kabonga Gazu died on Sunday after wildfire gutted his home. About 80 homes have been destroyed by the wildfires in Eshowe alone. Buthelezi elaborates.
Not only did the fire destroy homes, it has also destroyed the water pipes around this area. It has destroyed the grazing and also destroyed the livestock. And local government is at the coalface of service delivery, and they are the first point of call. Therefore, they need more resources, because these disasters now are becoming a daily occurrence, and we are making a call to national government to ensure that municipalities get a greater allocation in terms of disaster relief.
Further afield, and finally, US President Joe Biden has misidentified his Vice President Kamala Harris as former President Donald Trump during a high-stakes press conference. Biden also defended his decision to continue his bid for re-election at a crucial media briefing at the NATO summit in Washington yesterday. When asked whether he is capable of continuing for another term as president, he pointed out his success in securing support and finance for Ukraine's war against Russia as proof of his leadership ability. He also said he is uniquely qualified to be re-elected.
I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again. Secondly, the idea, I served in the Senate a long time. The idea that senators and congressmen running for office worry about the ticket is not unusual.
Recapping the top story, Mineral and Petroleum Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe says a scientific study of the state of mining is underway. He spoke in Parliament, where his department's 2024-2025 budget was debated. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
A very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. Plenty of action to look forward to tomorrow. The Springbok skipper Siya Kolisi is aiming for a series victory over Ireland at Kings Park. And in soccer, Mamelodi Sundowns staff exodus continuing. We'll bring you the details just before 8:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
If you're in Mpumalanga this morning, driving through Mbombela, trying to avoid the ring road section, the northern bypass, there's a truck that is jackknifed. That's on top of the roadworks. There's some very heavy backlog going on both ways there. Just try and reroute through the city centre area using the old N4, and you'll just get through Mbombela a lot quicker than anybody that's stuck on the ring road. At the moment, it's pretty hectic traffic out there. Just a little heads up. Yesterday, coming out of Pretoria to the airport, in the off-peak part of the day from sort of 9 until 4, we saw Sanrail drop an extra lane restriction in on the 21 South at the Clayville area, and that automatically just equals 45 minute delays to the airport. So if you've got flights to connect with during the course of the day, check before you travel. You don't want to hit the really long backlogs there, not knowing about it, and then panicking because your flight departure is approaching. Durban, 2 highways going north, stay busy. M7 up through West, the N2 from the M7 up through Westwood Mall, the M4 Southern Freeway into the closure of Brook Street, still very busy. Roadworks just having a bit of an impact as well around the Tonga Beach section of the M4. They're not new, but they are having a slowdown impact this morning. And Cape Town, the M5 going northbound, that's reasonably heavy, backlogging from Rondebosch all the way through to the Kuba. Get a change, and if you're on the N2 wanting to off-ramp at Nyanga, Borges Quarry ramp is open, but you can't come off the N2 at Borges Quarry and turn into Nyanga. That's because of some flooding. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
9 after 8, good morning, you're with SFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. Just had confirmation that the new Minister of Communications, Shabalala, will be on your radio in just a moment. He is, I know the conversation we were having a moment ago, he is from the DA. We'll hear from him. Kenny Konene, he's not in the government and he's from the Patriotic Alliance. We'll be talking to him in a moment as well. They're backing their Minister, the Gayton McKenzie, the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, some of his actions in office. We heard that whole conversation around superfans yesterday. And then, of course, your story of the week from 8:30. 086 000 2032, the number to dial.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
South Africa's always often been accused, at least for the better part of the last 20 years, of being a country that loses investment opportunity because of policy uncertainty.
I think it's important to state what we've always stated, which is that transformation is not an act of charity. It's not a donation or gift to black people. It is an imperative in this country to address the historic injustices in this country and ensure that black people are able to have equitable access to economic opportunities. But it's also in the interest of the economy, because in fact, if you broaden the base of entrepreneurs in this country, you're creating better competitiveness. You don't have a limited number of entrepreneurs, but you broaden the base of entrepreneurs that are able to contribute towards economic prosperity and job creation.
The Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Minister Baxter.
Night Talk, Monday to Thursdays, 10 to midnight.
Things are heating up. You can watch one of the toughest competitions in the world get underway this Saturday. The very first episode of the brand new season of MasterChef South Africa. 20 home cooks will be put through their paces as time ticks away and the drama boils over. 5 contestants will be going home in the first episode. Catch the premiere of MasterChef South Africa this Saturday on 7:30 p.m. on S3. MasterChef South Africa is proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
11 after 8, good morning. Well, lots going on, of course, in government. People getting used to their new positions, and some people used to their positions. Some people are not. One of them, who's come in for the first time in national government from the Democratic Alliance. We used to speaking to him as a spokesperson. He's now the Minister of Communications, Shabalala. Minister Malatsi, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning, Stephen. Thanks for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to be on which program you're on.
It's called Sunrise. It's quite an adjustment, I think, for someone like me to speak to you, who I'm used to speaking to you as a spokesperson for a particular political party, and now you're actually a minister. How are you finding that adjustment?
Look, it's been a really interesting adjustment in the sense that one has taken the approach to listen more and discover in terms of understanding the state of the department and the state of the sector that I'm going to be functioning in. You know, the communications and digital technology space, it's a highly regulated sector, a lot of competing interests. It's vast also. We've got about 11 entities in the sector. So I've taken the first few days to just get briefings and get a true sense of where the department is in terms of performance-wise, what are some of the burning issues from the sector in terms of the concerns and opportunities that we can unlock, so that any intervention that one is going to formulate is informed by, one, an evidence-based assessment of the challenges that exist, so that the interventions themselves respond accurately to what we find in there.
The space is changing very quickly. I mean, communications is one area that's changing very, very, very fast. I mean, 5-6 years ago, data prices were very high. They've come down dramatically. As streaming is making, and the fact that so many people watch so much on streaming or YouTube now, makes it much harder to regulate, to manage. You've got, of course, the terrestrial broadcasters, the SABC, ETV and others. Are you going to actually find it, do you think, quite difficult to regulate in this space, to make the right intervention that actually has a lasting impact?
Look, I think that is where the challenge is going to be. But the exciting thing about it is the role players already exist in there. And I think with much more proactive stakeholder engagement, there is an opportunity to find common ground. Yes, there will always be competing interests because, the regulator has a particular objective in mind, and the telecommunications role players are also, there towards their own objectives. But I think we can structure regulation way that it is not an inhibitor to fostering opportunities for market competition, opportunities that exist for collaboration, because we are, as you correctly say, in a constantly evolving environment, whether it be it from broadcasting, whether it be it from new and smart technologies that are introduced. So I think government's role should be to ensure that the environment is conducive to new developments that are constantly, evolving, so that even legislation, right, responds accurately to that. And I think that is where perhaps we've been lagging behind.
The post office has all sorts of problems. And I mean, I know in some cases you can ask, do we still need a post office? What do you think should happen to the post office?
Look, the post office is currently under business rescue, and I got a briefing earlier this week, and I was encouraged by some of the initial progress that has been made as part of the efforts of the business rescue. I think the bigger question that we need to ask with, the majority of some of these state-owned enterprises is, to which extent is complete government ownership still effective in this era and in this market that we're living on? Because some of these entities rely largely on government grants, and those government grants are never going to increase going forward because of the difficult fiscal position that we are in. Therefore, shouldn't we exploring opportunities for broadening ownership in there, so that we can empower them to be sustainable, because they are in a market that is highly competitive and also highly evolving, but the market is still there. So there's still scope, in my view, for the post office to exist. When you look at the footprint of its infrastructure and accessibility, despite that there's been, over hundreds and hundreds of post office closures in place, but the having a functional post office makes it cost effective for many vulnerable South Africans to access postal and telecommunication services in their immediate neighborhoods, which reduces, the cost layer again.
You talk about, I suppose we could call it a greater role for the private sector or public-private partnerships for the post office. Do you think something like that could happen at the SABC too?
Look, I think what we have to look at going forward is reconcile the reality that government funding is never going to be sufficient for the mandates, particularly the public interest mandate that an entity like the SABC has. So how do we then create legislation to be in such a way that it empowers these entities to have the strongest chance of diversifying their sources of revenue? But for now, the law is very clear, and we are going to be guided by the law. The GNU hasn't finalized its set of policy priorities for governance, and we will be tabling some of those that we think will really help elevate the performance of some of these entities and give South Africans a better sense of the performance of their entities.
Okay, and I mean, there've been times when the DA has been very, very grumpy and angry with the SABC. I mean, look, I find it slightly uncomfortable talking to you about it because I work for the SABC.
No, don't find it uncomfortable. Don't find it uncomfortable.
But the point is that, I mean, the SABC's had times when it's been very difficult and times when it's been a lot better. And I think one of the questions then is, do you have any intention? You do come from a political party which has been very critical of it in the past. Do you have any plans to try and weaken the SABC? Let me put it like that.
No, our approach is not to weaken the SABC. Our approach is to do what is possible within the law to help the SABC succeed. And if that means being, a robust shareholder, we'll be able to do that. But I'm comforted right now, based on the engagements that I've had of the caliber of the leadership that the SABC had, both at, CEO level and also at the board chairpersonship level, that, the SABC is in the right hands. And there's a window of opportunity. And let us be fair. I think our engagements are always going to be about, let us be fair and let us demand the best of each other. And I don't think, even my party's previous positions on the SABC were informed by emotions. They were informed by the evidence that was on the table.
And I do need to ask you this. While you are the Minister of Communications, you will ensure the editorial independence of the public broadcaster of the SABC.
it goes without saying. The editorial independence of the SABC, for me, is very sacrosanct, and it must be protected at all costs.
Solly Malatsi, thank you very much indeed. Minister of Communications, and realise this is contested from the Democratic Alliance. Minister, I do appreciate the time. Thank you. 19 minutes after 8.
Chomi, I just hope I get auto-assess this year so I can just accept.
You're so lazy. Remember, not everyone gets the auto-assessment notice.
I know, but I'm ready. I've got my e-filing password sorted, I've updated my details, and my IRP5 is ready.
Make tax matters priority by updating your personal and banking details and expect your auto-assessment notice from 1 to 14 July. If you disagree with your auto-assessment, file your return via e-filing. If you don't receive a notice, visit e-filing to submit your tax return from 15 July 2024. Visit sars.gov.za for more information. Your tax matters. SARS, at your service.
What's up, good people? It's Bulela Podisa, the girl from next door that you can call friend. This is Deal or No Deal Celebrity. Catch us every Saturday at 6 p.m.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
20 after 8, one of the big stories this week has actually come from the actions of also one of the new ministers, the Patriotic Alliance's Gayton McKenzie, as the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture. He's made decisions to cancel government funding for super fans to go overseas to support South African national teams. You heard that new mediated conversation yesterday. Also, it said that he will publish the names of every artist who's received money from the department. And this has led to, is this going to be a witch hunt? Are there concerns around this? Well, as I say, McKenzie comes from the Patriotic Alliance. The deputy leader of the Patriotic Alliance is Councillor Kenny Kunene. He joins us now. Kenny, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Stephen, and good morning to your listeners.
Why do you believe your minister, your leader, I suppose, is doing the right thing by publishing the names of people who received money? I mean, no one has any hint of any illegality here.
Transparency. Stephen, transparency, but also acts of corruption. After the publishing of the list, I was personally contacted by one of the legendary actresses, Winnie, who said to me that her name is on the list. She never applied for that funding. She never got that funding. So she does not understand why her name is on the list. So publishing those names has now showed the minister that there is corruption that has been happening. The people's names were used as references, but money never reached them. So that's why at the press conference yesterday, we called upon the minister to start a forensic investigation and follow the money.
Okay, so you suggest that people will find out for the first time that they received money. In other words, money was stolen.
Money was stolen because if somebody says, my name is there, but I don't have the money, I never received the money, I never applied. How many more are there? I saw Afrikaners' names there. I saw names of Nigerians there. I saw names of non-South Africans there. So it means people took advantage of that help to those who needed it. And they decided
Kenny,
to steal money.
What's wrong with Afrikaners receiving money from government?
No, there's nothing wrong. But I'm saying to you, if these names must be verified.
Okay.
They must be verified. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. But I'm saying to you, they must be verified. We must know who applied for that money. It is the money of the taxpayer. The taxpayer's got the right to know. The taxpayer is the shareholder in government. So the taxpayer must know who was helped with the taxpayer's money. But also, it is assisting the minister to root out corruption in that department. That department has been used for a long time as an ATM. People just send proposals there and they get money. None of these people who get money even account to the minister through audited financial statements, reports to say, this is how I spent your money. They just get money, they go spend it however they want.
Kenny, do you think this should set a precedent for everyone else in government? If they give money as grants or whatever for whatever reason, not social grants, obviously, that's different, but then people should know. It should be published.
It should be published. It should be known. Look at what happened at SASSA. We here at SASSA, that Zimbabweans, foreigners, are getting SASSA grants. How do you give people who hold passports, SASSA grants,
Okay.
who are not citizens of South Africa. So this corruption, this stealing of monies using people's names is all over government.
Okay.
So this must be a lesson and a good example to all the others. Those who are against the minister being transparent are encouraging corruption and theft in government.
Okay. All right, Kenny. You took that to one of your party's big issues very quickly. The super fans, is the minister right to stop the funding for Mama Joy and Mzila Bwet? I mean, these are people who are very popular. I can understand the argument that government money shouldn't go to, help people go overseas to go and basically have fun. On the other hand, sometimes, as we heard yesterday, being a fan is almost a profession. So, I mean, do you think the minister was right to stop funding for them?
I was listening to the minister on SABC Morning Live this morning when he responded to that question. And the minister is clear. Most of South Africans are super fans. So you can't just select one or two and say these are the super fans. We have, in every soccer game, you see 90% of the stadium filled with super fans, wearing regalia of their soccer teams, shouting, screaming. So the minister is saying, let us not exclude others. But because we can't do it for everyone, let us then say, we are stopping this, we are focusing it on sports development.
Okay. The whole idea of being in the coalition government at the moment, obviously early days, difficult to see how it's all going to pan out. But we've got local elections in 18 months' time, Kenny. At this stage, is the Patriotic Alliance going to contest the local elections against all of the other parties that you're in a national coalition with?
Look, even when you are in a coalition, you still contest elections. Because we as the Patriotic Alliance, and I said it yesterday in the press conference, we want to win municipalities outright. We want to win metros outright. We are not going into these elections to go and get into coalitions. That is our target. And that is why I even called upon community activists who are sidelined by political parties because of the work they do in the communities to reach out, to come and join Patriotic Alliance, to stand as councillors in their wards so that we can begin to serve our people. We want to demonstrate to South Africans that if they give us a municipality outright, what are we going to do? Because then we are fully accountable. The success or the failure of that municipality we will own. But we know that we will be successful. We will deliver service delivery. We will account for every cent. So that is our approach. The other parties that we are in a coalition with, we are going to contest. We are going to throw each other with stones. It is part of a political campaign. Just because we are in a coalition doesn't mean that we cannot contest each other. We cannot go brutal against each other. Coalition is not a bedroom.
Kenny, always you in the mornings, eh? Kenny, thank you very much indeed. The Deputy Leader of the Patriotic Alliance. Friday morning, 27 after 8.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. No coalitions, just collisions tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. Collisions with skipper Siya Kolisi. I know his leadership is going to be key for the Boks against Ireland tomorrow, 5 p.m. the kickoff, and we can look forward to it all happening at Kings Park. Coach Rassie Erasmus opting for an unchanged lineup featuring a record 990 caps. And after that hard-fought 27-20 victory in Pretoria, the Boks are determined to secure a 2-0 series win and affirm their status as the world's top rugby nation. Now, on the other side, Ireland faced challenges with key players like Bundee Aki and Craig Casey out due to injuries. Coach Andy Farrell has made strategic changes, promoting James Ryan and appointing Caelan Doris as captain. Here's Andy Farrell.
We're disappointed enough, especially like I said about our first half performance. It wasn't us doing things properly, and it might not seem like that to everyone, but to us it was. So therefore, we need to improve. We need to commit and be better than we was I've no doubt South Africa are going to be twice as good.
Soccer news. Mamelodi Sundowns continue to experience a significant exodus of both players and technical staff ahead of the new season. The latest departure is Sinathemba Badela, the club's DStv Diski Challenge coach. He resigned on Wednesday. This follows the exit of key figures, including coach Rulani Mokoena and players like Bongani Zungu and Gaston Sereno. Badela's resignation, along with the loss of fitness trainer Sibusiso Mashlangu and performance analysts, raises concerns about the club's stability. Speculation is rife that Badela may join Mokoena at his next destination, possibly Wydad Casablanca. Closer to home, Richards Bay FC's new sponsor, Pakwa Gas, has hinted that the club's technical team could undergo significant changes ahead of the new season. Shortly after the announcement of the 100 million rand sponsorship in Richards Bay, Parkway Group Executive Chairman Tabiso Tenyane revealed that they would be seriously advising in bringing a well-experienced as well as possibly a big-name head coach.
The other surprise that is coming, it will be the coach.
Okay, wait.
No, we're not I don't speculate, but it will be the coach. The next time you're back here, it's going to be the coach. Before the season starts, it will be the coach.
So there's going to be a change in terms of the
Of course.
Kanu is going to be a same coach.
We'll see. We will see. But we are just not an inactive sponsor. We are an active sponsor because our brand needs to be associated with the winners. So therefore then I need to make sure that I assist them to be winners.
And that's how we wrap up Sunrise on a high. We'll bring you more sport here on SFM around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Everyone's a winner. You are next. Your story of the week, 086 000 2032. It's just gone 8:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, Nahawu in Durban says the decision to retrench around 152 non-academic staff members by the Durban University of Technology is irrational and premature. Mineral and Petroleum Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe says a scientific study of the state of mining is underway. He spoke in Parliament where his department's 2024-2025 budget was debated. And police in Australia have charged a soldier and a husband with spying for Russia. Investigators say the couple, who are Australian citizens with Russian passports, attempted to share classified information with Moscow. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy on Bombella's Ring Road this morning. That northern section of the N4 under pressure. You've got the long-term roadworks plus a truck that jackknifed right across the carriageway, blocking both lanes. So if you're around Bombella, just scoot through Samora Michelle, the old N4, and you'll probably get through a little bit quicker. I think by the looks of things out there, that Ring Road's fairly heavily backed up. Joburg side easing up nice and quickly a lot earlier. Friday brings with it a lot lighter volumes generally, and we're seeing that again today. Just a reminder to check the R21 before you travel from Pretoria to the airport. Yesterday, Sanrail put a third lane closure and dropped it to one lane in that off-peak part of the day. And as soon as that happens, it's automatically sort of 45 to 50-minute delays. You don't want to get caught in that if you've got flights to connect with. Pietermaritzburg down to Durban looks good. N2, Spaghetti Junction, Umgena Road's cleared up nice and early as well today. No problems on that run through. Cape Town fairly busy. It's still wet, so driving conditions a bit tricky. Take it nice and easy. Wet and sodden is the Cape Town and inland area. The highways around Cape Town, the M5 seems to be the heaviest backlog with traffic sitting from sort of Clifffontein-Kromboom roadside, Rondebosch all the way through to Barclay Road in the Maitland area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Channel the forgiving spirit of Utata Madiba on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as community development practitioner Taryn Liebau shares how he rebuilt a nation with the power to forgive. We discuss the magic of making a child's dream come true and cook up Madiba's favorite oxtail with umngusho. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers, Crown Chasers is back. Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
26 minutes now to 9 the time. All right, your story of the week, 086 000 2032. Many things to talk about. Esidimeni, one of them. You heard the Communications Minister, Solly Malatsi, just a few moments ago. Also, Kenny Konene from the Patriotic Alliance. This issue of the super fans and artists and people who've received money from government. I don't know how you feel about that, one way or another. Let's start with one of the questions that's come in through the morning around the two-pot pension system. Sizwe in the Eastern Cape. Sizwe, good morning.
Morning, Stephen. Thank you, my brother. You raised, the gentleman who raised a question on the two-pot system.
Yes.
Now, what I wanted to ask is, now that it has been signed into law and it's going to kick in,
yeah,
is there any money already that they have put on the savings pot, or people are still going to start contributing towards that pot?
My understanding was that the contributions would still have to come, so you'd still have to wait a year. That was my understanding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So not everybody is going to be able to withdraw at the moment until they've made contributions to us.
Yes. And Sizwe, I must just say, Mdu's already planning something for Monday. We will get one or two experts on. I must just say, Breakfast Show doesn't do this, perfectly. There are other shows that have longer time. Kathy, maybe. I mean, it's up to them to decide what to do. But you'll get more from them. But Sizwe, we are looking at something like that to answer some of these questions because I think they are burning.
Okay, thank you,
Steve. Sizwe, thank you. Mfundo, also the two-pot system, how do you feel about it?
Yeah. Good morning, Stephen. I think the suggestion that you just saw now to Sizwe, it's a good one. Can you bring someone? Because I'm more thinking that government doesn't really care about us, but more about him. We know that government owes the IMF kind of trillions of rand. And I was wondering if from this two-pot system, is there no money, a percentage that is going to be taxed by government, which in turn that they're going to pay that tax?
No, I don't think it changes the tax at all.
So the tax bracket still stands.
Yes.
Because from the previous system, if you are withdrawing anything above 25,000 rand, then it's going to be taxed. Yeah. So now if we're talking about the third of your pension fund. What is not going to be taxed is anything below 100,000, but anything above 100,000 is going to be taxed. Am I right?
I don't know, Mfundo. You're asking a question above my tax bracket. I'm afraid.
No. I'm saying, Stephen. I'm saying.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Because if my overall pension is more than 100,000.
Yeah.
Then that amount, if I'm taking a third of that, of course it's going to be above 25,000, which is going to be taxed. That's what I'm saying. So government, one way or the other, is trying to recoup some money.
I don't think that's the intention. Mfundo, as I say, I can't answer that for you, I'm afraid. I'm sorry to say that I can't, but I can't. I'm not an expert on those things, and we will speak to some people who can. As I say, a breakfast show with fast interviews we don't get to do that as well as others. But Mfundo, we'll keep trying and just get some clarity for you on that. Sandile on the line from Pietermaritzburg. Sandile, hi. You want to talk about the cabinet? Too big, you reckon?
Yeah. Yes. Morning, Steve. Yes, Steve. I think. We have not been loud enough, Stephen, with regard to this matter. So I do not know whether it was just because it is perceived as being a non-issue, or we have just become passive citizens who have just become, the spectators watching the politicians do as they like. I think we should have actually made a loud noise with regard to this particular matter. The cabinet has been actually increased from 65 to 77. And I read one of the articles which was actually saying that this cabinet would actually require that we as taxpayers fork out about 1.2 billion annually.
Yeah.
Towards this a particular cabinet. So I think we should have actually demanded answers as the taxpayers from whosoever who has actually taken this decision to increase the cabinet.
It's the president, and he says, and I think people have said, I forget the name of the minister, but one of them did say it was because of the political choices of the election. I don't know if that is good enough, but that was the explanation.
No, I don't think that is actually good enough. I think it was actually their arrangement. So if it was actually their arrangement, I think they should have actually try at least maybe trim from the list of their members. Say the ANC has got, just for argument's sake, it's got actually 68 members. Try to trim from that 68 so that they can actually accommodate other political parties. So, but I think, Stephen, I don't know. I don't know whether we are actually passive citizens or we just allow, these politicians to get away with some of these matters. But, in the midst of what is actually happening in our country, where the poverty is actually rife, where there are people who are actually unemployed, where there's a whole lot of, things that actually requires resources. You look at the issues of service delivery. We are struggling as the country, but we still allow the politician to do as they want at our own expense. I don't know, but I was just hoping that even in your program, you will bring the expert maybe to provide some sort of advice, so that we can actually, as the citizen, if there are avenues that we actually need to, explore with regard to challenging these matters.
Okay.
We just try to, embark on those.
Sandile, we've heard you. Yeah, all right, thank you. On the issue of a bloated cabinet. Erwin and Bombela also on this issue. Go for it.
Stephen, come on. These guys, they must not insult our intelligence.
Yeah.
We can have 15 ministries and have all those, is it 10 or 11 parties?
Yeah.
It would be fine by us. The only people who lost here was the governing party, and then he tried to accommodate all of them. So it's not the voters who said, the voters did not say you must have a bloated cabinet. You are supposed to even cut it further. We do not have the means to feed all those people. The 1.2 billion, it doesn't come from a space elsewhere. It comes from us. It's our money. I remember sometime when they asked Pegitele as to how much resources does it take for him to support one minister. He counted something about 72. I'm not sure about that, if he was correct or not. But whether he was correct or not, the point is the bloated cabinet is not for us. These guys, we need to push them as citizenry that the maximum that we can afford as South Africa is 15. We don't care how many are from COSATU, how many are from SACP. That's not our business. We can only have 15. Over and above that is too much for us. Look at America, the largest economy in the world. How many ministries do they have? It's less than what we have here. So come on.
Erwin, I mean, I hear you, and I largely am nodding along as you talk. I hear the America example, and people make it all the time, but they have such a different system of government where, education and police and health are all taken care of by the states and not the national government. So each province has its own cabinet there too, sort of, kind of. So I don't know if it's quite, each system has different features. And yes, we have provinces too. So maybe the problem's there. But, I don't know if it really helps. It's not quite a straight overlap with the US is what I'm saying.
Okay, point taken. But when it comes to resources, they are far away ahead of us. They are very much way ahead of us. So what we need to, as South Africa, we don't need anything more than 15. We don't have to have, because in the main, if you look at it, if you dive deep to their rules, these guys, the main job that I'm seeing that they are doing is to just cut the ribbons.
No, Erwin, I hear you. As I say, I'm nodding along with you much of the time. Whether I should or not, a different question. Erwin and Bombela, thank you. Talking of ministries, Kato and Midrand, you want to talk about arts and culture? Gayton McKenzie's been very busy.
Yes, Stephen, firstly, before I go anywhere, your resignation letter has been declined by the Stephen Grootes Forum Association.
Well, thank you,
I'm heartbroken, but let's get to other business.
Thank you.
I think Gayton must not do the Donald Trump thing.
Yeah.
Don't run your ministry from Twitter in the morning before you even have breakfast. Because what he has done also, he has opened up a witch hunt on Mama Joy and the super fans. And also, they said they spent 1.3 million to go to France. That woman is not the one who tallies the budget. If people have stolen the rest of the money, they only use 300,000. It's not her. And I think the witch hunt on this lady is very unfair. It is the same thing that's happened to Makazi, where the department wrote a letter and they put her name there to say, oh, she also received. That's unfair. How many other artists have received money? It's like they're choosing these soft targets. Lastly, that list that was released of the COVID funds relief, there are so many names, but people have chosen 4 to lambaste. It's unfair. It's almost like SASSA releasing the 350 Rand grant recipients and say some of these people are corrupt, but there are people there who needed the money, who are innocent. For me, it's just heartbreaking. I think it's wrong, because what they did to Makazi cannot be undone. I think Gaten McKenzie owes Mama Joy and Makazi an apology.
Sure. All right, Katu, strong view. Thank you on the line from Midrand, and thank you. Do appreciate it. Bramoro and Mangaung, also on the issue of superfans. Hi.
Yeah, Stephen, honestly, today was supposed to be a very perfect day for us, but you're breaking our hearts. We don't know how we'll be able to pinch it back.
Thank you. You're still stuck with me for 2. You're still stuck with me for 2 weeks, Bramoro.
2 weeks is still small. We've had you from 2018. We are not addicted to you. So 2 weeks is still small.
Okay.
Nevertheless, we hope for the best, but we will join you wherever you go.
Thank you.
The Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, especially the sports minister, could have probably come with a different strategy whereby, let's say, South Africa, any national team is going outside the country. Maybe South Africans in those countries can be probably there can be a subsidies for them. In this case, government can purchase tickets for those South Africans in those countries for them to go to stadium to support the national team instead of airlifting supporters from home. And
I see what you mean. Yeah,
if there is a need for us to airlift supporters from home, there is business class, there is economy. This is the perfect opportunity for us to also contribute towards the building of the economy. If you ask Bramoro to support Bafana, probably Bafana has a game in Ghana, and I'm to be with Bafana. I have to also pay part of the money. The whole fund shouldn't be from the states. This is what the government of Ghana used to do. If, let's say, Black Stars of Ghana is coming to South Africa, and you are a supporter, you want to join, you pay probably 60-70% of the cost. You are not giving special treatment. No. Yeah. You go as a fan, but you bear 70% of the cost. Because there are certain cases that Ghanaians in South Africa wouldn't even have the ability to go to the stadium. Hence, the government needs to bring in supporters from home. And this
I've got to say, Bramoro, I don't know if government money should go to fans at all. Finish and klar. You know, I mean, the idea of, there are arguments for it, Bramaro, but let me put the argument to you, right? That government should focus on things that, education, health, etc. Focus on helping the teams to do better. But to focus on spending money on fans, I don't know.
No, Stephen, remember, FIFA or CAF also has money that they give to the government. And this money that goes to the probably SAFA and the rest, it goes beyond only the playing body and the management.
Okay.
We shouldn't forget about that.
But
and also, the tourism minister can also make use of those funds going into the stadium. Remember, last year we did have a situation that South Africa was going to sponsor, I think, Tottenham also.
Yeah.
So we could have used the super fans. Imagine Mama Joy in a stadium or Bota in a stadium holding please visit South Africa as a billboard in the stand.
All right. No?
Isn't all part of improving the tourism of the country? There are many ways we can use to develop South Africa or sell South Africa globally. But the manner in which the minister came in, honestly, he was supposed to come down, probably learn from other countries instead of coming it in this way. Because now, if we tend to review it, it will be like he has retracted from the earlier message. But perhaps he could have taken time to amend it. Thank you, sir.
Bramoro on the line from Mangaung, thank you. Okay, 12 minutes now to 9 the time. Your story of the week. Crispin in KwaZulu-Natal. Been a while, Crispin. Hi.
Hi, Stephen. Yeah, yesterday I had to deal with a nasty incident. Somebody coming to work at my house. He's walking up the road, and there are 2 dogs on the road there, with the owner of the dogs sort of hovering around somewhere. So he feels scared of dogs, and a lot of people in our society feel very scared of dogs because of our history. It's no surprise. We all know about it. So he says, look, please move your dogs out of the way. I don't feel safe. The guy says, no, just walk on, it's fine. He said, look, they're not on a leash. Put them on a leash, please, or move them out of the way. Then he got aggressive, and that led to a confrontation with accusations of racism and so on. I went there, and I said, the first thing wrong here, surely, is that there's a law, there's a bylaw, makes it absolutely clear. You can't let your dogs wander around without a leash. But what struck home to me, first of all, was the immense defensiveness about this.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of thing that does not get spoken of in society. And I think very large numbers of black and working class people in particular are very exposed to these, these aggressive situations that they just have to put up with. And then they stop complaining about them because who's going to listen to these situations? And I just thought, this is wrong. This is wrong. And people are they're not thinking about it. They need to do something about it.
Yeah. No, Crispin, I think you're right. I think this does happen, in some cases, in some areas, and for some people, on a daily basis. We've heard a few stories, not a huge number, but we've heard stories like that here. And it's always it sort of reminds you of where we are as a society, doesn't it? It's actually quite a horrible thing to hear, because it just reminds you of how difficult things still are.
And what struck me was that in all of the campaigning for the election, there are a number of issues like this that are obviously wrong in the society, and people just don't talk about them as an issue to be addressed. Who was talking about taxi violence? Who was talking about what happens to pedestrians in streets? So there's so many issues that we're fully aware of, and that they're not on any party's campaign trail.
No, Crispin, thank you. Strong point. On the line from KwaZulu-Natal. 10 minutes to 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good news from Mbombela. The truck that jackknifed across the N4 ring road has been cleared. There are still some long-term roadworks on that ring road section with some delays that are currently formed up. I guess a combination of the earlier blockage and the roadworks just keep things busy for a while. If you're around Mbombela area, just scoot through the old N4, Samora Michelle section through central town area and just get through a little bit quicker. Joburg, some 1 or 2 delays on the West Rand area, particularly around on Deckers Road in the Flora Cliff area. There's a power outage across a great big chunk of the West Rand this morning. So routes like Hendrik Potgieter and Vilkerud and on Deckers for this time on a Friday. Just some unusual queues there. N1 moving out of Pretoria down through Midrand, looking fine on your way to Joburg. Protesting again at Isengulweni on the southern part of KZN. The N2 between Port Shepstone and Harding has been blocked this morning. You might want to just travel a little bit later once the authorities have cleared the protesters, cleared the rubble and reopened the road. Cape Town, some flooding locally on the N7, Jakes Kerwell Drive at the casino exit. So very slow on the run through Goodwood, heading down in towards the Epping area. Rest of the highways are easing. And just a reminder about the closure of the N1 inland between Toes Rafia and Duran, still because of flooding. That national section of roadway closed both ways. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Things are heating up. You can watch one of the toughest competitions in the world get underway this Saturday. The very first episode of the brand new season of MasterChef South Africa. 20 home cooks will be put through their paces as time ticks away and the drama boils over. 5 contestants will be going home in the first episode. Catch the premiere of MasterChef South Africa this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. on S3. MasterChef South Africa is proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
You know the number 086 000 2032. Your story of the week this morning. Magdalene on the line from Mangung. Magdalene, hi. Kenny Kunene, go for it.
Yeah, Kenny's on point, Stephen. Morning, Stephen.
Morning.
Kenny's on point. We've been fighting as South Africans, saying that we lack transparency, and we want South Africa to be corruption to be outrooted. So if Kenny Kunene and Dayton McKenzie are going to work like that, really South Africa is going to recoup itself from corruption. So let us not be hypocrites. Let us get what we want because we've been fighting for this. Number 2, administration of the municipalities. I think administrators, once they go into municipalities, their role is only simple, to identify the cause of the problem. If ever the mayor and his crew, the councillors, whoever, and the city managers and the CFO are the cause of the problem, they need to get rid of them so that they can start afresh. So why Mr. Mkasa in Mafude is still dig and diving? In Bloemfontein, in Mangaung, I forced the province in 2021 to expel the city manager from the job. That's what I did. So they must do the same. So let's get direct to the point and get rid of corruption and try to bring stability in South Africa.
Okay.
Kenny's on point. I'm saying it.
Magdalene, thank you very much indeed from Mangaung. Kenny, Kanene, as always in the mornings, getting some support. Okay. Dumasani on the line from the Eastern Cape. You've been on hold for a while. Dumasani, good morning. You want to talk about SARS?
Yes, Stephen. I've got a problem with SARS here.
Don't we all, yeah?
Yes, I'm waiting for government, yeah? Yet at the same time, I've got the spousal pension and the child's pensions, yeah?
Yeah.
Now I'm owing SARS 30,000 each and every month. When I'm calling SARS, why this huge amount? They said, no, the money that I'm getting from pension funds is not being taxed. When I'm calling GPS, they said, no, SARS must tax that money. So now I'm having that problem now. 60,000 that I'm owing this year. I don't know who can help me to assist me with that, because now really...
They're going from one to the other. Have you gone to the tax ombud? There's a tax ombud, Dumasani, who might be the right person. I know might be able to give you some advice as well.
Some advices, because even today I've called SARS. They said no, they can't assist me with that, because now every year I must pay that huge amount because of that pension that I'm getting.
Yeah. I mean, is the pension that big though? I would be surprised.
The problem is I've got two children and it's me on the other side, so I have that money and it's not being taxed. The SARS, they said no, they can't tax that money. GPF must tax it. So,
all right, Dumasani, my advice to you, if you can, before you go anywhere else, is you will probably be directed to the Office of the Tax Ombud, right? The website is taxombud.gov.za, so it's TAXOMBUD, taxombud.gov.za. We've spoken to them before, not for a little while, but I've always found them to be helpful. I know other people have found them to be helpful, and they might just, give SARS a good nudge with the elbow to sort this out for you.
Thanks.
But try there, and let's see how we go. Dumasani, come back to us if you don't have any joy, please. Kandisa and Matlasana, which way are you going on Kenny Konene and Gayton McKenzie?
Look, Stephen, morning, how are you?
I'm well, Kandisa, go for it.
Stephen, look, it is good to root out corruption.
Yeah.
But you must follow the law. You see, people, they just do mistakes because they wanted to target other people. You see, you must remember that this country, it does not run by feelings. It's run by the law. If it is good, you see, when somebody done something, he must be proven guilty to the court of law, so that we cannot allow things that are wrong to be happening in our municipality, in province, in national. But I wanted to advise him that don't do things because of emotions. Do things according to the law. You see? Then, let me tell you, Stephen, the ANC is fighting corruption. Let me tell you, it's fighting corruption. And
yes.
The ANC said, those who know that they do corruption, they must step aside.
Yeah, but Zizi Kodwa is still in Parliament, Kandisa.
Let me tell you, Stephen, there are processes here.
Oh, Kandisa.
On issues of Zizi Kodwa, there are processes.
Kandisa, the ANC, I know you're a long-term member of the ANC, Kandisa.
Zizi Kodwa was supposed to be shot because he was on the list of IEC.
Yeah,
That's
Kandisa.
the way law works.
Kandisa, you're a long-term member of the ANC, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a member of the ANC. And I'll die as member of ANC.
That's fine.
ANC took out of poverty.
Sure, it's your right, Kandisa, and it's my job to give you a chance to let you speak and to let others speak. But I don't know for voters if the defence that there are processes is going to help the ANC here.
Even community, people of South Africa, they understand how ANC works.
Well,
They
only
understand
40%
very
of
well.
them, clearly, yeah.
It's run by constitution of ANC, not by emotions.
Oh.
Because when you do emotions, you must also think that those people, they have right to go to court
All right.
and to say, I was not treated well.
Okay, Kandisa, we've heard you, and it's a conversation we've had many times, and we'll have many more, and I look forward to hearing from you in those conversations. Lufuno in Midrand, you're our last caller this morning. Kathy taking over in a few moments. The Gautrain.
Hi, morning, Stephen.
Morning, Lufuno, go for it.
Talk about the security guard of mobility guard and outlets that were placed in the bridges between Midrand and Centurion.
Yeah.
You know, they place one man and one woman, and they've never given them a shelter, and they've never given them a toilet. Tell me, even they need people, they need to help themselves. Where should they go? Because they don't have toilet, they don't have a shelter.
So these are people who are guarding installations?
Yeah, they are guarding the bridge, the entrance of the bridge of Housing Gate.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, between Midrand and Centurion. Corner George Road.
Sure.
Between the bridge of Samran, they are there. One woman, one man. One woman, one man. But they don't have toilet.
I thought under the law, a security guard had to have a toilet. That's what I've always thought. That's why when you go to gated areas, you see the toilet right there at the gate. That's why it's there.
That is exactly what the health and safety process of these people are not taking serious here.
All right. No, Lufuno, that's the first time I've come across this. Thank you. We will look at that if we can next week. Lufuno on the line from Midrand. All right. A lot in our little sort of bag of things, or really our WhatsApp group of ideas for next week, including, two-pot system. We'll look at the census issues in your mediated conversation next week. We're working on that as well. It's been one of those weeks. Nice to be back with you. You've got 2 more weeks of me. And after that, you can breathe again. We will be back with you on Monday. From Mdoop, Stanza, Zelma, Amandla, Melissa, myself. Look after yourself. You're with SFM leading the conversation. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
In our top stories, Nahau slams Durban University of Technology's planned retrenchments and a scientific study on the state of mining underway. Good morning. Nahau in Durban says the decision to retrench around 152 non-academic staff